Chapter 30:905. About the treasure map, I also know something about it. Lu Qijian's face was full of interest. Where is it? One of them is beyond the Great Wall. Tangwa knew where the stolen treasure map was, but she didn't want to expose it for the time being. There's a place called Yellow Sand Lake beyond the Great Wall. I know that place. I've been there before to compete with a swordsman beyond the Great Wall. Unfortunately, when I arrived, the swordsman had already passed away. Lu Qijian came back to his senses. Then let's go beyond the Great Wall? Okay. The carriage drove all the way to the Great Wall. 2 days later, Luo Lisan also followed in a carriage. The people in Jianghu were already used to the fact that Tangwa and Lu Qijian were together, but Luo Lisan's following made the people in Jianghu talk about it. However, no matter how many anecdotes and gossip there were, it couldn't compare to the news of the treasure map. Since the news of the treasure map was leaked, Jianghu was full of news about the location of the treasure map, which attracted a large number of people in Jianghu to look for it. With so many people involved, it was inevitable that all kinds of conflicts would occur. Crippled, and 2 dead people. To the Jianghu, this was a very normal thing. Among them, the behavior of the soul-seizing sect and the distant soul palace made the people in Jianghu angry. As long as people from these 2 sects appeared, they would stir up a bloody storm. The people in Jianghu who had conflicts with the 2 sects would be injured at best, and even lose their lives at worst. The Jianghu was getting more and more chaotic, and the soul-seizing sect and the distant soul palace killed more and more people. The people in Jianghu were in danger, and especially hoped that the famous righteous sects would come out to uphold justice. Therefore, some people spoke out, hoping that there would be a willing alliance leader. A willing alliance leader could lead all the sects to suppress or even eradicate evil sects like the soul-seizing sect and the distant soul palace. Many of the famous righteous sects were not willing at all, who liked to be suppressed, until someone spread the news that the soul-seizing sect and the distant soul palace had each found a treasure map. Therefore, the voice in the pugilistic world became, "We must not let these 2 sects get the treasure map. Otherwise, there will be chaos in the pugilistic world, and the other sects will not be able to survive." Now, whether or not the soul-seizing sect and the distant soul palace really had the treasure map, the martial artists could no longer tolerate them. If he really got it, would they still be able to survive? These 2 sects would take people's lives at the drop of a hat. It wasn't as if they hadn't exterminated a sect before. The matter of searching for the treasure map was temporarily put on hold, and the martial arts world began to make arrangements to elect a martial arts alliance master, who could become the willing alliance chief. Of course, it was the one with the highest martial arts. At this time, Nith Yunsheng had been caught up in the dispute between Ruan Qianling and Su Xinhua. In addition, his martial arts were not good enough for him to be the chief of Wulin, so he was not very keen on this matter. As the #1 villa owner, he definitely had to participate. Moreover, in the Jianghu, he had a very high chance of becoming the Wulin alliance leader. Currently, there were already quite a few sects that came to the manor to drink tea and discuss some matters. It was clear that they supported him. Kong Heyuan, the leader of the 7 Stars sect, also wanted to compete for the position of the Wulin alliance leader. Other top sects were unwilling to submit to others. How could they miss out on sects like the soul-seizing sect and the distant soul palace? The pugilistic world seemed to be more lively. How could Ruan Qianling miss out on such a lively scene? She even felt that the Falling Flower Palace was not bad. She hurriedly went to the Falling Flower Palace, intending to persuade Tangwa to participate in the election of the Wulin alliance leader. Tangwa was beyond the Great Wall at this time, so she didn't know about this at all. Chapter 30:906. After Ruan Qianling left the Falling Flower Palace, she heard that Tangwa was in seclusion. She was very regretful and encouraged the other members of the Falling Flower Palace to participate in the election. The protectors of the Falling Flower Palace looked at each other. Sure enough, the palace master had expected it. The young palace master's temperament was still uncertain. The Falling Flower Palace had never been associated with other sects in Jianghu. If they were involved, it would be disadvantageous for the Falling Flower Palace. If it weren't for the palace master's repeated warnings, they might have been persuaded. In the plot, Yuan Qianling's words did move the four protectors of the Falling Flower Palace, and they went to cause trouble at the election. In the plot, they were not as strong as they were now. Although they were in the limelight, they did not snatch the position of the Wuling Alliance. Now their martial arts had improved a lot. Because of Tanggua's warnings, they did not have the intention to go down the mountain to show off. The palace master has ordered that we can't go down the mountain before she comes out of seclusion. We have to guard the palace master in case of a sneak attack. Yuan Qianling quickly said, "Just one will go. It won't affect anything. Aunt Chunmei, how about you go and let Aunt Xiaowu and the others guard the Falling Flower Palace?" Yuan Qianling was unwilling to let the so-called famous sects in Jianghu take the limelight. Their Falling Flower Palace was not bad. Being called a devil all day long made her uncomfortable.
No.
Chunmei refused without hesitation. They still felt that the palace master was right. What limelight? It was best to hide their strength. No opponent knew about the Falling Flower Palace. It was the safest for the Falling Flower Palace. Sure enough, the young palace master was still too young. The palace master was right. She needed more experience to be competent for the position of the palace master in the future. No matter how Yuan Qianling coaxed and pestered, she did not succeed. Even if she said that the soul-snatching sect and the distant soul palace would participate, Chunmei did not have the slightest intention of moving. In the end, she could only give up and go down the mountain alone. The Wuling assembly began, and people from all over the world came. The most important characters would usually appear at the end. Moreover, the Wuling Alliance master selection was a tag team battle. It was a little different from tag team battle. After the battle, one could rest, and then continue to accept challenges. Tanggua, who was far beyond the Great Wall, also knew what had happened in Wuling. Regret? Once he leaves, there will be a martial arts convention, Tanggua said with a smile. Lu Qijian crushed the letter and shook his head. Once I find the treasure map, they will be more than happy to compete with me. System. Who wants to spar with you every day? There was still one more day before they would arrive at Yellow Sand Lake. Tanggua and the others chose an inn to stay in. The inn was located in the middle of the desert. There were no other buildings in front or behind it, nor were there any green leaves. The scenery was very desolate. The nature in was very simple and crude. Walking in, there were 2 or 3 guests eating inside. Then, a seductive woman came up to them. After sizing them up, she walked lightly to Lu Qijian and reached out her slender fingers to touch Lu Qijian's chest. Lu Qijian was very direct. He shook the sword in his hand, and a cold light flashed in front of his eyes. The woman was so scared that she hurriedly retreated. Judging from her movements, she should be someone with good martial arts skills. Oh, the guests are so fierce. You scared me to death. My heart is about to split open. This woman was the inn's proprietress. She slowly walked in front of Lu Qijian. Guests, are you eating or staying? Staying, Lu Qijian said. The woman agreed with a smile. She turned around and was about to make arrangements when she purposely stepped on her skirt and fell towards Lu Qijian. Tanggua, Lu Qijian, and Luo Lisan tacitly moved to the side. The woman directly fell to the ground and cried out. She looked at Lu Qijian with a pitiful expression. Young master, it hurts, it hurts. Lu Qijian didn't even look at the woman. He found a clean table and sat down. Bear with it. Miss Tanggua, what do you want to eat? Lu Qijian asked. If you don't like the food here, ask the coachman to get it from the carriage. Proprietress, bear with it? Is this person a dog? Doesn't he know how to be gentle with women? Chapter 30, 907. The lady boss got up from the ground and went to Lu Qijian's side. She stomped her feet and said, Gongzi, you're so cruel. Luo Lisan looked at the scene in front of her. She didn't know why, but her face was a little hot. She wasn't as shameless as the lady boss. She wasn't reserved. Her previous behavior was also treated like this by Lu Qijian. Did other people look at her the way they looked at the lady boss? Luo Lisan's face was red, green, and white. She couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. Thinking back to the past, she felt ashamed. Gongzi, I just fell and hurt. Don't you care about me? The lady boss didn't believe in heresy. She wanted to make Lu Qijian waver. She thought that no matter how calm he was, he wouldn't be able to handle her. Was there any man who wasn't lustful? She was quite confident in her own appearance. Lu Qijian said, I'm not your father. The implication was that he should care about her parents. Luo Lisan had slowly accepted that Lu Qijian's words were unpleasant to hear. No, it wasn't pleasant to hear. It was simply a poisonous tongue. The lady boss was so angry that her chest was heaving up and down. She couldn't wait to kill Lu Qijian. The people in front of her had some skills. They couldn't be easily provoked. The lady boss knew that she couldn't do anything to Lu Qijian. She returned to normal and started to entertain them. At night, the three of them stayed in the inn. In the lady boss's room, a few big men were discussing. Lady boss, are these people fat sheep? Do you want to make a move tonight? That man's meat looks firm. He's not bad. Those two women are really beautiful. They can definitely be sold for a good price. As soon as they finished speaking, the lady boss slapped their heads. Idiots, you can't touch these people. The people who came today weren't simple. She wasn't afraid of anything, but she didn't want to provoke them. The night passed peacefully. The next day, the group continued to go to Yellow Sand Lake. A lot of people died in that inn. The smell of blood is everywhere. Luo Lisan said, Aren't you curious about who died there? That lady boss didn't look like a good person. Those people probably died in her hands. I think it's most likely murder and robbery. Tang Wu didn't say anything. She remembered her identity. She was a female devil in Jianghu, not a Jianghu Taoist priest. Those who made a living in the Jianghu basically had their heads on the line. If they died, it could only be said that their skills were not as good as others. Looking at Lu Qijian's appearance, it was obvious that he was not a busybody. When Luo Lisan saw that the two of them didn't want to talk about it, she gritted her teeth bitterly. How long had this Tang guy and Lu Qijian known each other? How could they have such tacit understanding? She was so angry. It doesn't matter if the lady boss of this inn is a good person or not. The dishes are pretty good. Luo Lisan added, It's more to my taste. By the way, why did you only order vegetarian dishes yesterday? We've been out for a long time, so we should eat some meat. You ate meat? Tang Wu couldn't help but ask, When did you eat? Luo Lisan remembered the taste of meat last night and said, I was hungry in the middle of the night. I went downstairs and asked the lady boss for some food. She gave me a few meat buns. The taste was really good. Luo Lisan was still reminiscing about the taste of the meat buns, so Tang Wu didn't say anything more. But Luo Lisan didn't let it go. What, do you have a problem?
No.
Tang Wu shook her head. The truth was cruel, so she didn't say it. If she said it, Luo Lisan probably wouldn't be able to look straight at meat buns in this life. She originally thought that Luo Lisan should have noticed something when Lu Qijian only ordered vegetarian dishes yesterday and refused the meat buns recommended by the lady boss. Chapter 3908. This Luo Lisan was truly a newbie. She could only survive in the Central Plains. Beyond the Great Wall, it was far more dangerous than the Central Plains. It was even more common to challenge a person's bottom line here. Luo Lisan felt that something was off, but she didn't think too much about it. She continued to talk about the steamed buns. I brought some steamed buns with me. Do you want some? It's not impossible for you to eat them, but you have to leave 7 swords. Miss Luo, do you think that Lu Qijian is only worth 2 steamed buns? System, huh? Tang Wu's words made Luo Lisan blush. Forget it. I won't argue about this for now. If you want to eat, I'll give them to you. Aren't you looking for the treasure map? Let's see who finds it first. If I find it, you have to agree to my conditions. Do you want some steamed buns? Luo Lisan asked again. Tang Wu refused.
No.
I think the steamed buns are already cold. They don't taste good. Let's not eat them. Just start a fire and steam them. I brought a small pot and charcoal. Since Luo Lisan was so persistent, Tang Wu didn't say anything else. Half a day later, at Yellow Sand Lake, It was rare to see this place bustling with desert residents. The people here were all tall and had high noses. Their clothes were also very different from those in the Central Plains. When Tangua and the others appeared, they were surrounded by the residents. They asked if they had brought any items from the Central Plains and were willing to trade with them. When they arrived, Tangua put some items in the carriage and took them out to trade. She also asked the residents about the situation here. There was a person in Yellow Sand Lake who had the treasure map. As long as she could find this person, she would have a chance to obtain the treasure map. Through the trading of items, Tangua found out about Di Weiping's whereabouts. She took Lu Qijian and followed the guide to Di Weiping's place. Di Weiping lived in a shabby tent. He looked sloppy and lazy, and one of his arms was broken. But judging from his face, it was certain that Di Weiping was from the Central Plains. The person who led the way left after getting the benefits, leaving only Tangua and Lu Qijian in Di Weiping. As for Luo Lisan, she had been looking everywhere for the whereabouts of the treasure map. Little did she know that Tangua and Lu Qijian had come prepared. You came all the way here to look for a cripple like me. Speak. What's the matter? Di Weiping was boiling a pot. By the looks of it, he was preparing to cook something. More than 10 years ago, I left the Chinese world of martial artists. Right now, I'm already a cripple. I might not be able to help you much. Di Weiping looked as if he had really retired. But Tangua said, "Are you really willing to leave the Chinese martial arts world without any reluctance?" Right now, the Chinese world of martial artists is choosing their alliance master. If there are no accidents, Niehi might be the candidate for the alliance master. Niehi, Di Weiping murmured in a low voice. Hatred flashed in his eyes. It was unknown what he thought of, but the flame of hatred gradually extinguished. That has nothing to do with me. Do you have a treasure map in your hands? Lu Qijian was more direct. If you do, give it to me. Di Weiping was speechless. His cheeks were twitching. He had never met such a person. How shameless was he to ask for a treasure map? Do you want to recover your martial arts? Tangua continued to ask. Di Weiping's eyes were filled with expectation, but they dimmed again. I know my body's condition. I can only recover if I go to the Elixir Valley. But the Elixir Valley is not a place where we can go as we please. Forget it. Chapter 30, 909. The reason why Tangua knew that Di Weiping had a copy of the treasure map was because it was mentioned in the plot. Later, Di Weiping took the treasure map and the sword art he had learned in his life to heal his wounds and recover his martial arts. Before she knew that Lu Qijian was from the Spirit Potion Valley, she thought that the Spirit Potion Valley helped Di Weiping because of the treasure map. Now, she understood that it was Di Weiping's sword art that really moved the Spirit Potion Valley. Give me the treasure map, and I will give you the recommendation token to go to the Spirit Potion Valley. Lu Qijian was still straightforward. Also, give me a copy of your sword art.
If you want, we can make the deal now.
Lu Qijian had heard about Di Weiping. At that time, he was still young. Before he went to challenge Di Weiping for a sword competition, something happened to him. Many people said that Di Weiping was dead. Unexpectedly, he came to the Yellow Sand Lake. Really? Di Weiping asked in surprise. You really have the Spirit Potion Valley's recommendation token? If one had the Spirit Potion Valley's recommendation token, no matter how serious the injury was, as long as one brought it in, the people of the Spirit Potion Valley would definitely treat them until they were cured. The Spirit Potion Valley was full of miraculous people. Even if one was on his last breath, he could still come out alive. Di Weiping was tempted. However, he was a little hesitant. He was afraid that Lu Qijian was lying to him. Lu Qijian took out the recommendation token from his chest. It was a jade token that belonged to the Spirit Potion Valley. Check if this is real or not. You guys come with me to the Spirit Potion Valley. Di Weiping still didn't believe it, so he made such a request. Lu Qijian agreed. When Luo Lisan came back, she found that Lu Qijian was accompanied by a man holding a camel. What's going on? Aren't you looking for the treasure map? Luo Lisan asked. Lu Qijian said, I've already found it. Luo Lisan glanced at Di Weiping. Could it be related to this person? The group went back the way they came and passed by the inn. Luo Lisan's eyes were filled with joy as she said, "Let's go to the inn and buy some food to take away. Why don't we have a meal before we leave? If we rush over, it will take us a few days to reach a populated area. We should at least prepare some water." "Go ahead. I've prepared plenty of food and water," Lu Qijian said ungratefully, but Luo Lisan was already used to it. Lu Qijian was already being kind by waiting for her. Luo Lisan shook her head. When did her expectations become so low? After a while, Luo Lisan came back with some buns in her hand. She knew that the treasure map was related to Di Weiping, so she decided to curry favor with him. She handed one to Di Weiping and said, "This shop's buns are not bad. We won't be able to eat them when we return to the Central Plains. Try some." "Thank you, Miss Luo, but I don't like buns." Luo Lisan ate happily. Di Weiping wanted to remind her, but in the end, he swallowed the words he wanted to say. If Luo Lisan didn't eat it, it wouldn't hurt to remind her. However, she had already eaten it, and it seemed that she had eaten it more than once. It was better not to remind her. "It's strange. Why don't you all like buns? I think the taste is not bad." Luo Lisan was a little puzzled. Di Weiping said, "Maybe it's because we've lived outside the Great Wall for a long time. We all eat flatbread. Flatbread is more filling." Luo Lisan accepted his words and didn't force Di Weiping. Along the way, Di Weiping heard Luo Lisan mention the bun shop. He couldn't bear to look at her, but he restrained himself and didn't tell her the truth. About a month later, Lu Qijian brought Di Weiping to the Elixir Valley. Di Weiping took the token and was successfully accepted by the Elixir Valley. Chapter 39:10. On the same day, he told Lu Qijian the location of the treasure map. He also gave Lu Qijian the sword technique that he had written down in the past few days. On the way, he had thought it through. Those who wanted to rob him would directly threaten him. Since the other party was so generous, he thought that they would really let him enter the Spirit Potion Valley. Luo Lisan received the news from her family and left a few days ago. During their journey, something happened in the martial arts world. During the Wulin Union leader election, something big happened. It was related to Nie Yunsheng. It was said that during the Wulin convention, Nie Yunsheng ran to the Seven Stars sect to steal something. He didn't expect to be found out. Now, the Seven Stars sect wanted Nie Yunsheng to hand over the thing. They also said that Nie Yunsheng had killed a Seven Stars sect disciple. If the Flowing Cloud Mountain Villa didn't give them an explanation, the Seven Stars sect wouldn't let them go. Because of this, the Wulin Union leader election was temporarily put on hold. Nie Yunsheng denied that he had stolen something from the Seven Stars sect, but during this period, no one could prove that he hadn't done it. The most important thing was that the wound on the dead disciple's body was deliberately changed. However, those who had a little bit of sword skill could see the shadow of the flowing cloud sword art. Nie Yunsheng couldn't defend himself. At that time, he also couldn't find any evidence to prove Nie Yunsheng's innocence. The Seven Stars sect wanted Nie to destroy Nie Yunsheng's meridians. Nie, of course, didn't want to, even if he had to lose the Wulin Union leader position. Nie Yunsheng couldn't stand it anymore. He didn't want the whole villa to be implicated by him, so he destroyed his own martial arts and broke his meridians. Only then did the Seven Stars sect give up. Nie Yunsheng thought that it was a conspiracy behind the scenes. He directly left the Flowing Cloud Mountain Villa that day and announced that he was no longer a member of the Flowing Cloud Mountain Villa. Wan Qianling was also there that day. He knew that Wan Qianling would definitely help him. Sure enough, after he said that, Wan Qianling took action. Regarding this point, Nie Yunsheng had used Wan Qianling. The suspicion on him could not be washed away. Even if he left the drifting Cloud Mountain Manor, it would bring him all kinds of trouble. If he made friends with Wan Qianling, the young master of the evil Falling Flower Palace, everyone's attention would be diverted to the Falling Flower Palace. The Seven Stars sect would also involuntarily turn their attention to the Falling Flower Palace. In this way, they would be able to protect the drifting Cloud Manor. Wan Qianling didn't know about these twists and turns. She only felt that these righteous sects didn't care about morality at all. Back then, the person he saw was Nie Yunsheng. Could it really be Nie Yunsheng? Could it be someone in disguise? No one would believe the words of a demoness like her. She could only escape with Nie Yunsheng under the curses of the martial artists. At present, Wan Qianling had settled Nie Yunsheng in the old place. She felt that Nie Yunsheng was a little silly. Even if it was for the Drifting Cloud Villa, he should not have agreed to cripple his own meridians. You're such an idiot. Wan Qianling could not help but curse for a long time. Now that he has lost his martial arts and his meridians are crippled, he is truly a cripple. I think the people from the Seven Stars sect still want your life. Just because they saw a face and a similar swordsmanship, they want to convict you. How unreasonable. I say, your Drifting Cloud Mountain Manor is such a big force. Can it protect you? You are the young master of the Drifting Cloud Mountain Manor. I have an intuition that if I continue to stay in the Drifting Cloud Mountain Manor, it will bring more trouble. Since escorting the treasure map of the Seven Stars sect, I have fallen into a conspiracy. Nie Yunsheng said, now, someone is going to kill the disciples of the Seven Stars sect, steal things, and pretend to be me. I guess the person behind this wants to provoke a fight between the two sects and disturb the martial arts world. Chapter 30, 9-11. The villa is full of my relatives. My father will definitely not watch me be crippled. At that time, all the prestige will be gone, and the Drifting Cloud Villa will become the public enemy of the martial arts world. But your meridians are crippled. What are you going to do now? You can't practice martial arts anymore. Wan Qianling was very anxious. Perhaps I can take you to the Elixir Valley to try. It is said that the people in the Elixir Valley can revive the dead. They will definitely cure you and let you practice martial arts again. Nie Yunsheng was somewhat unwilling. If he didn't do that day, he would have fallen into the other party's conspiracy and caused the two sects to fight. At that time, he didn't know what bad things would happen to the Drifting Cloud Villa. He felt that his martial arts talent was ordinary. Sacrificing himself in exchange for the safety of the Drifting Cloud Villa was worth it. Now that everyone knew that he was a cripple, perhaps he could find out who was behind the conspiracy with the help of Wan Qianling. Yes, Nie Yunsheng dared to do so because he knew that Wan Qianling would help him. Everyone in the martial arts world knew about the 3 treasures of the Falling Flower Palace. One of them was the martial arts secret book, the Xian Pulse book, which could heal people with broken meridians. As for whether or not Nie Yunsheng had thought of this, only he himself knew. Nie Yunsheng's injury was almost healed. Wan Qianling took him to the Elixir Valley for help. After waiting for half a month, there was no result. At this time, Wan Qianling was obsessed with Nie Yunsheng. It should be said that the two of them had feelings for each other. During this time, Wan Qianling didn't know that because she helped Nie Yunsheng, the Falling Flower Palace had become the public enemy of the martial arts world. People in Jianghu were saying that it was the witch of the Falling Flower Palace who bewitched Nie Yunsheng. They even thought that the disappearance of the treasure map was directed by Nie Yunsheng and that he cooperated with the Falling Flower Palace to kill the other disciples. It is said that after Nie Yunsheng disappeared and reappeared, Wan Qianling was by his side. I think this is really a conspiracy of the Falling Flower Palace. The treasure map is in the hands of the Falling Flower Palace. At this time, no one paid attention to the Drifting Cloud Villa and the Seven Stars sect. They all felt that the Falling Flower Palace was sinister and wanted to suppress them. Unfortunately, other than Wan Qianling, no one from the Falling Flower Palace showed up. At the foot of the Falling Flower Palace, there was a Chimenduanjia, so ordinary people couldn't go up. No matter what the Jianghu people said, the people of the Falling Flower Palace didn't show up. It was like punching cotton. On the other side, Tanghua and Lu Qijian found the treasure map in Di Weiping's hands. Where is the 3rd treasure map? Lu Qijian asked. What does Miss Tang want? Why don't we wait for them to finish their sword duel, and I'll give you a 3rd of the treasure map. Are you so sure that they can't beat you? If they don't play tricks, they won't be able to beat me, Lu Qijian said. I won't give them a chance to play tricks. You're too confident. Do you know who has the 3rd treasure map? Tanghua asked with a smile. All the disputes were just one person playing a big game of chess. Lu Qijian was curious. Where is it? Tangwa opened the latest letter, which was news from Wulin. After reading it, she said, according to the current situation, the third treasure map should be in the hands of Niehi. Niehi? Lu Qijian frowned slightly. Could it be that the failure of the escort and the murder of the Seven Stars sect's disciples were all part of Niehi's act? But he didn't expect that the Seven Stars sect released a fake treasure map. In fact, the real treasure map was escorted back to the Seven Stars sect by their disciples. The reason why they did this was that after the Seven Stars sect got the treasure map, they were attacked several times. If they transported it themselves, they wouldn't be able to transport it back to the sect, and it would be robbed. Tangwa explained with a smile. Chapter 39:12. So, they found someone from Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa to escort them? They even gave a fake treasure map just to create a diversion. I didn't expect that Niehi would steal from Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa. Not only did he not get the real treasure map, but he also lost a group of disciples and almost lost half of the mountain villa, as well as his own son's life. Lu Qijian quickly sorted out the relationship. Then, the Seven Stars sect was robbed some time ago, and the disciples were killed. Was it Niehi who did it? That's right. Lu Qijian couldn't help but ask, how do you know so much? It's a secret. Lu Qijian wasn't so obsessed with the so-called secret. Why didn't he pretend to be Nie Yunsheng? Isn't this harming his own son? Now the whole Jianghu is rumored to be a conspiracy of Falling Flower Palace. If Falling Flower Palace is weak, the people of Jianghu may attack them. Tangwa analyzed, you know the relationship between Nie Yunsheng and Ruan Qianling, right?
Yes.
Lu Qijian suddenly understood. Nie Yunsheng and Ruan Qianling are familiar with each other, so he can successfully put the blame on Falling Flower Palace, right? You're not that stupid. Tangwa commented. Lu Qijian felt strange. I used to be stupid? So stupid that you don't want to compete with me in swords? System. What kind of strange brain circuit is this? Sure enough, it's the character setting of a single dog. If it weren't for the arrival of the great host, he would be a wild dog that no one wants. For the treasure map, he simply abandoned Nie Yunsheng? Lu Qijian didn't understand. I like to compete with swords, but I won't hurt the people around me for it. I heard that Lu Qijian wants to compete with someone and agrees to the other party's request. There are certain rules in Jianghu. Lu Qijian nodded. Yes. Then can you tell me which requests you can't agree to? Tangwa asked. She was very curious about these details as they weren't in the storyline. Lu Qijian. I don't think we should accept anything that we can't agree to. System. Awesome, Lu Qijian. Lu Qijian, you're really awesome. You're able to stop all the plots and machinations with just one sentence. The person who said you were stupid must be the one who was stupid. Tangwa didn't expect it to be like this. So, if you think you can't agree to something, you'd rather not agree to it than compete with him. Lu Qijian nodded.
Yes.
You know I'm not that stupid. Can we compete now? You can think about your request first. Tangwa. Not for the time being. Then when you've decided, I'll be waiting for you. System strange. We won't take the third treasure map for the time being. If we take it, won't Niehi be innocent? Tangwa suggested. Anyway, it's easy for us to take the treasure map. Why don't we wait for them to settle their grudges and then take the treasure map? Miss Tang's words make sense. I don't like to participate in Jianghu disputes. Lu Qijian thought of something. Last time when I competed with Niehi, I felt that he didn't use his full strength. Then if he uses his full strength, who will win? Lu Qijian replied without hesitation, me. I have some things to do at home. Tangwa thought that Ruan Qianling was probably going to steal the treasure of Falling Flower Palace. She had to go back and take a look. She did not intend to get involved in the muddy waters of Jianghu. However, it seemed that some people were restless and wanted to steal from Falling Flower Palace. She had to go back and take charge. I'll go with you, Lu Qijian said. What if you want to compete? Chapter 39:13. Tangwa rejected Lu Qijian's suggestion. He wouldn't force others, so he didn't follow her. If you want to compete with me, you can send a message to the Spirit Potion Valley. Lu Qijian gave Tanggua a jade token. This jade token was different from the token from the Spirit Potion Valley. It was more transparent and had no patterns. There was only a small engraving of a sword in a small corner. The two separated. Tanggua immediately returned to the Falling Flower Palace. There was a secret passage in the Falling Flower Palace. Tanggua went back through the secret passage. Palace Master, you came out? Something big happened during this time. The people of the Falling Flower Palace were very happy that Tanggua came out. Thinking of what happened in Jianghu, several guardians told her about it with righteous indignation. So, Ling got into trouble? Tanggua asked indifferently. They couldn't tell whether she was happy or angry, which surprised the guardians. They thought that the palace master would be angry. They didn't expect her to be so calm. She was indeed the palace master. It seemed that these things were expected. Palace master, should we invite the young palace master back? Chun Mei asked. Tanggua nodded. Yes, you go and invite her. Invite her a few more times. Tell her clearly about the situation. Also, tell her that Nie Yunsheng isn't a good person. Also, don't avoid people in Jianghu who are looking for trouble. Just fight. Since the Falling Flower Palace has taken on the title of an evil sect, it's natural for them to do something out of line. Otherwise, this title will be in vain. Chun Mei and the others were happy. They thought that the palace master would tell them to be careful. They didn't expect that she would tell them to be arrogant. The past few days had been suffocating for them. Chun Mei and the others went down the mountain. Soon, they found Wan Qianling and ordered her to leave Nie Yunsheng and go to the Falling Flower Palace immediately. Of course, Wan Qianling resisted. She said that she wouldn't go back now. Chun Mei and the others got Tanggua's order. They could only persuade her, but couldn't fight. Therefore, they didn't use force. Otherwise, with their current martial arts, it would be easy for them to bring Wan Qianling back. They were now Tanggua's die-hard fans. They would do whatever Tanggua asked them to do. Wan Qianling was very stubborn. No matter how much they talked, she had no intention of going back. Under Tanggua's orders, they went to persuade him from time to time. About half a month later, Wan Qianling finally agreed to return to the Falling Flower Palace. Chun Mei and the others thought that Wan Qianling had understood and happily brought her back to Luohua Palace. Back at the Falling Flower Palace, Wan Qianling looked very well behaved and even apologized to Tanggua. Tanggua knew what she was thinking and did not intend to expose her. Chun Mei and the others were not fools. They could tell that something was wrong with Wan Qianling. She was acting suspiciously. Under Tanggua's deliberate neglect, Wan Qianling finally stole the martial arts secret book. Inside it was not the previous Xian Pulse book, but the embroidery arts that Tanggua put inside. Palace Master, are you really not going to catch the young Palace Master and discipline her? Chun Mei was worried. For a man, the young Palace Master actually stole something from the Falling Flower Palace. We can't indulge her anymore. Today, she stole the treasure of the Falling Flower Palace. To say something that the Palace Master doesn't like to hear, I don't know if she will harm the sisters of the Falling Flower Palace for that man in the future. The reason why they weren't so excited was that Tanggua told them that the secret book had been replaced and hidden by her. The core members of the Falling Flower Palace were happy to have such a strategic palace master. However, Wan Qianling's behavior made them worry about the future of the Falling Flower Palace. Chapter 39:14. Wan Qianling was now wholeheartedly devoted to a man. She was afraid that she could not bear the responsibility of Falling Flower Palace. Do you think that by bringing her back, she can forget that man and become the same as before and not miss that man? Chun Mei and the other guardians were silent. They were afraid that it was impossible. Ling Er's temperament is somewhat similar to senior sister's. She insists on risking her life for a man. However, she is still somewhat different from senior sister. If it was senior sister, she would definitely not harm the Falling Flower Palace for a man. This is also the reason why I want to test her. If she can't pass the test and takes over Falling Flower Palace in the future, I need to choose another competent one. Hearing Tangua's plan, Chun Mei and the other guardians were relieved. You go down the mountain in a few days and pick some good seedlings who are orphans. Bring them back and train them well. Yes, Palace Master. In the eyes of Chun Mei and the others, Wan Qianling had already disappointed Tangua and was planning to give up on her. That's right. For a man, she actually stole Falling Flower Palace's treasure. They could not afford such a palace master. If Wan Qianling was in charge of Falling Flower Palace, she would be defeated sooner or later and fall in the hands of a man. According to the plot, after Wan Qianling stole the Buddha lotus seed, the original owner found out that the Xian Veins book was also stolen. Then, she sent people to kill Nia Yunsheng. She was not in a hurry. She was waiting. That day would come soon. On the other side, Wan Qianling returned to Nia Yunsheng's place with the secret book in fear. She smiled and handed the secret book to Nia Yunsheng. Fool, what do you think this is? This is? Nia Yunsheng was puzzled. This is a treasure of my Falling Flower Palace. Even if your meridians are broken, you can still practice it. If it weren't for the people of Falling Flower Palace, I would have forgotten about it. Wan Qianling's face was full of pride. Hurry up and practice it. This is something I took out with great difficulty. The sooner you recover your martial arts, the sooner you can find out who is plotting behind the scenes. Nia Yunsheng held the secret book and was very moved. Thinking of the attitude of Falling Flower Palace disciples towards him, this secret book was probably brought out by Wan Qianling. The feelings in his heart, as if they had taken root and sprouted, grew. Thank you. What are you talking about? Hurry up and practice. All right. Nia Yunsheng was practicing the embroidery arts, which was Tangua's. In the first 1 or 2 years, there wouldn't be much of a reaction, but as time went on, the gentleness and beauty of a woman would become more apparent. Wan Qianling only thought that she was helping Nia Yunsheng. She didn't think of him. She was still proud that Su Xingyue couldn't help Nia Yunsheng at all. At the same time, Di Weiping, who had entered the Spirit Potion Valley, was recovering slowly. Back in the Jianghu, there were more and more rumors about the Falling Flower Palace playing tricks. For a time, the people of the Jianghu felt that the Falling Flower Palace was evil beyond redemption. During this period of time, Chun Mei and the other protectors had been searching for seedlings everywhere. They would often encounter some Jianghu people who would provoke them. Tang was said that they didn't need to be polite, and this caused the Falling Flower Palace to gain a bad reputation. The people of the Falling Flower Palace did not care about this. They had the support of the palace master, and their own strength was not weak. With Tang's attitude, they didn't care about Wan Qianling's matter. They couldn't forgive her for stealing things from the Falling Flower Palace and giving them to a wild man. They didn't ask about the palace master's plan. They just believed in the palace master. In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed. In these 2 years, Tangua had stayed in the Falling Flower Palace and didn't go down the mountain. She knew everything that happened down the mountain. Chapter 39:15. In the past 2 years, she had not been idle. She had been practicing martial arts every day. She had practiced all the sword techniques she knew to improve her strength. It was not until she felt that her martial arts were invincible in this world that she stopped. From time to time, there were rumors from the foot of the mountain that Nia Yunsheng and Wan Qianling had done all kinds of things. Of course, the reputation of Falling Flower Palace was getting worse and worse. It was almost to the point where everyone wanted to beat them up. Even the fierce soul-snatching sect and distant Soul Palace were not so hated. Nia Yunsheng had become a rising star in Wulin again, which was really shocking. In just over 2 years, Nia Yunsheng had become a first-class master. However, he was now with the demoness Wan Qianling, so he was considered a public enemy in Wulin. Nia Yunsheng had volunteered to take the blame and did not inform Drifting Cloud Villa in order not to let the people behind him find out anything. He chose to continue. Therefore, every time he met Nia He would persuade Nia Yunsheng to come back and leave the demoness of Falling Flower Palace. The Seven Stars sect was different. They had always been in a state of shouting at Nie Yunsheng. In the chaotic Wulin, coupled with Di Weiping who had returned to the peak, things were even more lively. The Wulin Alliance Leader Assembly that had been put on hold for a long time finally began. Seeing that it was coming to an end, there were no problems. In their hearts, they all felt that Nie He was the Wulin Alliance leader. Kong Huyuan's martial arts were slightly weaker than Nie He's. At this time, the two of them were competing. The result was as they expected. Nie He won. However, at this time, a voice sounded. Di Weiping had appeared. He wanted to compete with Nie He for the position of Wulin Alliance leader. The Wulin Alliance Leader Assembly was so lively. How could Tangwa miss it? Therefore, she went down the mountain again and was watching in the crowd at this time. Miss Tang, don't you want to be the Wulin Alliance leader? Suddenly, Lu Qijian's voice sounded in her ears. Tangwa looked sideways. It was indeed him. Do you want to be? Lu Qijian shook his head.
No.
I don't want to be either. Then do you want to compete with swords? Tangwa shook her head.
No.
Oh, call me when you want to. It was obvious that Lu Qijian was very disappointed. He thought that after 2 years, Tangwa would want to compete with him again. Have you competed with anyone in the past 2 years? They were very busy. I gave them 3 moves, but they weren't willing. Lu Qijian said that if it weren't for the fact that the treasure map was still in Nie He's hands and he felt that Tangwa had some kind of plan, he would have used the treasure map to attract the people of Jianghu to compete with him. Who do you think will win, Di Weiping or Nie He? If Nie He doesn't reveal his true strength, he might lose. Lu Qijian said with certainty. If he reveals his true strength now, it will be disadvantageous for him. Do you think Di Weiping wants Nie He's life? They're all killing moves. He really wants to kill Nie He. Lu Qijian stared at the 2 people fighting in the arena. It seems that he's here to kill Nie He. I don't know if Nie He will reveal his true strength. I don't think so. Tangwa said with a smile. Lu Qijian stared at her and asked, Do you know something? Nie Yunsheng. When Tangwa said this name, Lu Qijian understood. Nie Yunsheng wouldn't watch Di Weiping kill his own father. He just didn't know how Nie Yunsheng would feel if he knew that his father didn't care about him at all. The two didn't speak again. Sure enough, when Di Weiping used his strongest killing move, Nie Yunsheng appeared to stop him. What was surprising was that Nie Yunsheng wasn't a first-rate master at all, but a top-tier master. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to stop Di Weiping's killing move. Chapter 39:16. After that, it was time for Nie Yunsheng and Di Weiping to fight. Both of them were merciless and deadly. Nie He, who had been injured, had a complicated expression on his face as he was helped to sit on the side. He looked at Nie Yunsheng worriedly. Nie Yunsheng's strength made the martial artists tremble in fear. Di Weiping didn't hold back, but it wasn't easy to kill Nie Yunsheng with force. If both sides were injured, he wouldn't be able to get away with it. Therefore, he quickly retreated and said, Nie He, just you wait. One day, I, Di Weiping, will take your dog life. But if I can't take your dog life today, I'll take your son's life first. As he retreated, Di Weiping hit Nie Yunsheng with his palm. Nie Yunsheng took the hit with his own strength. After taking the hit, he felt that something was wrong, because there was a lump of black on his palm. It was obvious that he had been poisoned. This doesn't seem to be poison from the Central Plains. I'm afraid it's from the western regions. Di Weiping came from beyond the Great Wall. Nie Yunsheng retreated to the side. Luo Lisan happened to see him and checked his wound. She knew some medical skills. How are you now? In the past 2 years, Nie Yunsheng had appeared and caught Luo Lisan's attention. Even though many people said that Nie Yunsheng was in cahoots with a demoness, she felt a kind of chivalrous aura from him. It was the kind of chivalrous aura that she liked. Gradually, Luo Lisan's gaze turned to Nie Yunsheng. After learning her lesson from Lu Qijian, she still maintained her pride as the #1 beauty in martial arts and didn't approach him as much as before. From time to time, she would show concern for Nie Yunsheng and tease Ruan Qianling. She felt that it was quite interesting. Gradually, Luo Lisan lost interest in Lu Qijian. System. Host, there's something I want to say. Is Luo Leeson a scumbag? You'll have to ask her. I read through the plot again. Luo Leeson first liked Lu Qijian to no avail. Later on, Nie Yunsheng appeared, and she fell in love with Nie Yunsheng. After Nie Yunsheng went into seclusion, she was still the #1 beauty in the martial arts world. She seemed to have fallen in love with another rising star in the martial arts world. As for whether there was a replacement later on, the plot didn't mention it. The system said weakly, the #1 beauty in the martial arts world and the rising star of the martial arts world. I think she's a scumbag. She loves everyone she sees and only likes the one who's in the limelight. That's also a kind of happiness. Looking at her now, she probably doesn't know about the steamed buns. Haha, it's best if she doesn't know about it for the rest of her life. Ignorance is bliss. The system laughed and felt that Luo Leeson was a little cute. Young Master Nie Yunsheng, how are you? Luo Leeson gave Nie Yunsheng a medicine. It was a precious antidote. Nie Yunsheng's forehead was covered in cold sweat and his lips were bruised. It looked very serious. Luo Leeson said worriedly, "Can you try to force the poison out?" Wan Qianling couldn't bear to see someone so concerned about Nie Yunsheng. She pushed them away and grabbed Nie Yunsheng's hand. "Idiot, how are you?
Hurry up and say something."
Wan Qianling, if you shake young Master Nie like this, it will cause discomfort to his body. It's better to let someone with medical skills take a look. However, the person with medical skills quickly turned around and left, indicating that he wouldn't treat Nie Yunsheng. Wan Qianling's heart turned cold. In a fit of anger, she took Nie Yunsheng away. Nie wanted to stop them, but he was injured, and there was someone blocking him. He could only watch the two leave. System. Host, your Buddha lotus seed, no, the rotten lotus seed at home is going to disappear. Will Nie Yunsheng die? Chapter 39:17. Protagonists won't die so quickly. They can be tormented for the rest of their lives. As for lotus seeds, there are plenty in the pond. After the martial arts convention, Tanghua and Lu Qijian ran into Di Weiping. Di Weiping had seen them earlier and purposely bumped into them. He knew that the two didn't care about Jianghu matters, so he wasn't afraid of them causing trouble. I didn't expect to meet the two of you again. Di Weiping looked younger and less sloppy. I thought that I could kill Nie today, but Nie Yunsheng popped out of nowhere. I had no choice but to use the medicine I prepared on him. Consider it as me repaying my father's debt. What grudge do you have against Nie?
Tanghua asked.
Di Weiping looked at Tanghua suspiciously. I thought you knew. Miss Tang probably knows. She just wants to hear you say it again. Lu Qijian exposed. She knows a lot. System. Ha ha ha, shut up. If you keep talking, your wife will run away. Nie, he ruined my life. He framed me, made me despised by my master, and took away the person I loved the most. If it wasn't for Nie, I would be the one in charge of Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa. He didn't kill me because he wanted to humiliate me. Since I had the chance to recover my martial arts, of course I had to come back for revenge. Di Weiping was actually surprised by some things. Nie Yunsheng's appearance really made me curious. Nie's son doesn't seem to be doing well. I originally didn't want to argue with him, but who told him to meddle in other people's business? He saw that the two of them weren't moved, so he stopped talking about it. Now I suddenly feel that Nie isn't that weak. Today, before Nie Yunsheng appeared, it seemed that it was too easy to injure him. Nie is full of cunning. How could he be killed by me so easily? Could it be that Nie Yunsheng was arranged by him from the beginning? That's not right. He has no reason to harm his own son. Just then, a dart flew towards Di Weiping. He quickly caught it. There was a letter on the dart. Di Weiping's expression changed when he took it down and looked at it. He asked subconsciously, "What? What's wrong?" Lu Qijian asked. Di Weiping's face was somewhat pale. I don't know who sent me a letter saying that Nie Yunsheng is my biological son. How is that possible? However, Di Weiping was a little uncertain as he recalled the past. In the beginning, junior sister and he were a couple. At that time, they were young, a single man and a single woman. They didn't wait until they were married, but they did indeed have intimate relations. When Tangwa saw Di Weiping's expression, she knew that he was recalling his romantic past. The time and everything matched, but Nye Yunsheng was indeed not his son. The most interesting part of this plot was that Di Weiping thought his son was his, while he thought his son wasn't his. In reality, Nye Yunsheng was He's biological son. It was He who was overly suspicious. Moreover, Madame Nye had pleaded on Di Weiping's behalf and hoped that Di Weiping's life would be spared, so it was even more misunderstood. He didn't want others to laugh at him. He thought that he had been cuckolded. Since he was already here, he didn't avoid it. Since he didn't kill Di Weiping, he could torture his son. Now that he knew Nye Yunsheng was about to die, he sent a message to Di Weiping and planned to anger him to death. Anyway, Nye Yunsheng's value to him was more or less enough. He probably didn't even know that he had cheated his own son. When my martial arts were crippled and I lost an arm, I planned to leave. Junior sister saw me for the last time. At the time, I didn't want to give up and wanted to take her with me. Chapter 39:18. My sister did tell me that she's pregnant. For the sake of the baby, she said that she would stay. I thought that the baby was he's. Di Weiping's mind was in a mess. He didn't know what to do. So, the baby was his actually? By doing that, she could protect both him and the baby? Do you think it's yours? Asked Tangwa. Di Weiping was a little hesitant. I don't know. He didn't know for sure. Only his sister knew who the baby was. However, from the darts he had received today and the way he had treated Nye Yunsheng, he was afraid that Nye Yunsheng was his son. He remembered that he had given him a deadly poison from the western region. Once the poison was injected into the body, a black mass would appear in the palm of the hand. The black mass would spread as time went by. Once it spread to every part of the body, it would become the fourth stage of the disease. This poison was one of the most deadly poisons in the western region. No one had ever heard that anyone could survive after being poisoned by it. Of course, he didn't know if the mysterious Spirit Potion Valley could cure this poison. He suddenly panicked. If Nye Yunsheng was really his son, wouldn't it mean that he had harmed his own child? Di Weiping's face paled. The more he thought about it, the more he couldn't sit still. If Tangwa and Lu Qijian weren't here, when he saw the letter on the darts, his head would have exploded. He couldn't wait to find Nye Yunsheng. At this moment, he was still calm. Although the poison was deadly, it would take some time to spread and take effect. Before that, Nye Yunsheng's life wouldn't be in danger. It was better to investigate this matter. If the baby was his son, no matter what, he wouldn't let him die. The main reason was that the relationship between Lu Qijian and the Spirit Potion Valley wasn't shallow. Only the Spirit Potion Valley could save Nye Yunsheng's life. Miss Tang, you should know, right? Lu Qijian's voice pulled Di Weiping back to reality. You know a lot of secrets, so you probably know something about this. Do you think I'm a spy? Tangwa didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This Lu Qijian, did he really think she was some kind of spy? He would know after a quick search. Speaking of which, Di Weiping was indeed screwed over by this incident. After he said that Nye Yunsheng was his biological son, Di Weiping's revenge had been hindered repeatedly. After fulfilling his various tasks and giving Nye Yunsheng what he deserved, he happily went to get his lunchbox. Even before he died, he didn't know that Nye Yunsheng was the son of his enemy. As for Nye, even though he knew that Nye Yunsheng was his son, in order to become the world's #1 expert and obtain the mysterious treasure, he didn't want to acknowledge his son. In the end, he was defeated by Nye Yunsheng and killed himself. Di Weiping, don't you think it's a bit of a coincidence that this letter came? Tangwa didn't directly reveal Nye Yunsheng's identity. Whose child was Nye Yunsheng? If Madame Nye said it herself, it would make some sense. Di Wei was a bit dazed and started to think silently. With Tangwa's reminder, he wasn't so anxious anymore. That's right. As soon as he appeared, someone said that Nye Yunsheng was his biological son. This letter just happened to come right after he poisoned Nye Yunsheng. It was very strange. Di Weiping completely calmed down and secretly guessed the motive of the person behind this, and who would do this? It must be a big deal if Nie Yunsheng wasn't Niehe's son. If other people in the Jianghu knew, then wouldn't the whole Jianghu know? The other party sent this letter to him and wasn't afraid of making a fool of himself, which meant that they knew what he was thinking. Chapter 30, 919. If it weren't for Tang Guo's reminder, he definitely would have gone to find Nie Yunsheng immediately and tried his best to cure the poison. Since Nie Yunsheng was his son, no matter what enmity he had with Nie, he couldn't reveal Nie Yunsheng's identity to the public. That way, Nie Yunsheng wouldn't be able to raise his head and become a feral child. That way, not only would he be able to deal a blow to him and cause him to panic, he could also use Nie Yunsheng to obstruct his path to revenge. So it was obvious who was behind this, Nie. However, he didn't understand. Was it worth it for Nie to sacrifice his only son just to target him? If Nie had a few more bloodlines, he really believed that Nie would be able to do something like this. This person would do anything to achieve his goals, and was very vicious. He didn't care about whether they were related by blood or not. This should be Nie's doing. Di Weiping voiced his thoughts. But I'm not sure about Nie Yunsheng's identity. If Nie Yunsheng isn't my bloodline and is Nie's, then he has no reason to do this. You said before that you had some disputes with Madame Nie, Tang Guo reminded him. If Nie misunderstood and thought Nie was your bloodline, then keeping Nie alive to take revenge on you and torture your own flesh and blood, wouldn't that make sense? Di Weiping's mouth fell open, shock in his eyes. It sounded like a very bold guess, but why did he feel like it was so reliable? If that was the case, then everything that happened to Nie Yunsheng, including the letter he received today, really did make sense. Lu Qijian's tone was certain. This is the truth, isn't it? Miss Tang, you wouldn't speak without thinking. As expected, you know a lot. She even knew this kind of secret. No wonder her swordsmanship was so exquisite. As long as he could compete with her in swordsmanship, forget 2 years, even if he had to wait 10 years, it would be worth it. Di Weiping had already calmed down. He even hoped that what Tang Guo said was true. Right now, he wanted to verify this matter. Aside from asking Madame Nie, his little junior sister, he felt that no other method was reliable. According to his junior sister's temperament, if she knew that he was the one who hurt Nie Yunsheng, and if Nie Yunsheng was his blood, she would definitely point at him angrily and tell him the truth. If little junior sister was only heartbroken and did not mention this matter, then Nie Yunsheng was basically Nie's bloodline. Miss Tang, young Master Lu, I have something to do now. Thank you for your help today. If it weren't for the two of you reminding me, I might have believed in Nie's scheme and fallen for it. Once he firmly believed that Nie Yunsheng was his bloodline, he would never be able to take his revenge in peace. As for the slip of paper he just received, Di Weiping did not throw it away. He still had a use for it. After he went to find out more, he would sell this information to the people of the martial arts world. At that time, the entire martial arts world would know that Nie had been cuckolded. Let's see if he could not disgust the other party to death. To Di Weiping, reputation had long been useless. He felt that in the martial arts world, villains lived better lives than heroes. Villains did countless bad things, but as long as they did a good deed, they would be remembered. Heroes did countless good deeds, but as long as they did something bad unintentionally, they would be criticized. Wasn't he like this in front of his master? Now Nie labeled himself as a hero. The only question was whether he could bear the consequences of being a hero. Wan Qianling brought Nie Yunsheng to the Spirit Potion Valley and waited for 3 consecutive days without any results. I'm afraid waiting like this is not a solution. Luo Lisin was also there. She looked at Nie Yunsheng and her palms turned black. Look, the poison is spreading. Chapter 39-20. Then what should we do? Senior Martial Brother, how do you feel? Su Xinyue was also very anxious. She looked at Nie Yunsheng's palm and couldn't stop crying. Wan Qianling was upset. Seeing Su Xinyue crying, she scolded her coldly, "Shut up. Can crying be deciphered?" Hurry up and think of a way to save this idiot. Crying all day is more of a hindrance than a help. Su Xinhua was so scared that she trembled. She stopped crying, but her tears kept flowing. Nia Yunsheng was a bit worried. Ling, don't blame little junior Marshall sister. She's just worried about me. Nia Yunsheng looked at the Spirit Potion Valley. Since the Spirit Potion Valley is useless, let's go somewhere else. Nia Yunsheng observed his palm. The poison was still slowly spreading. If this continued, his entire arm, or even his entire skin, would turn black. At that time, it might really be impossible to turn the situation around and there would be no hope left. Since the Spirit Potion Valley didn't work, he might as well think of his own method. I've already sent a messenger pigeon to find other godly doctors, Luo Lisan said. If the Spirit Potion Valley doesn't have any conditions that can move them, I'm afraid it's useless. Although our Luo family has a lot of money, the Spirit Potion Valley doesn't care about it. We can't take out anything decent to move them. Luo Lisan was indeed worried about Nia Yunsheng, but she didn't feel like she couldn't live if he died. She was really the calmest one among them. It seems we really have to think of another method. Wan Qianling didn't like Luo Lisan, but she didn't deny her words. I plan to go to the Falling Flower Palace. Maybe I can find a way to save the idiot. I'll leave him in your care for this period of time. Okay, of course, no problem. Luo Lisan agreed. She thought for a bit, and her gaze fell on Su Xinhua. Miss Su, leave the matter of taking care of young Master Nye to me. I'll ask someone to take care of him and make sure nothing happens to him. I also have to take care of senior Marshall brother, Su Xinhua said stubbornly. 2 streams of tears didn't stop flowing. Luo Lisan shook her head. Young Master Nye is still a member of Flowing Cloud Villa, so he can't return openly. However, I believe that Villa head Nye and Madam Nye don't want anything to happen to him. Go back to the manor and tell them about young Master Nye's matter. Maybe they can find a way to help young Master Nye get rid of the poison in his body. So that's how it is. All right, I'll go back. Su Xinhua did not refuse this time. No matter what, she had to help her senior brother. She absolutely could not watch her senior brother die. I wonder if the treasure map circulating in the world of martial artists is still there. If we can find his whereabouts, we can get a treasure map. Perhaps we can use it to move the Spirit Potion Valley. Luo Lisan muttered, I'll pay attention to this matter. Once there's news of the treasure map, I'll arrange for people to snatch it. You guys should also pay attention to it. Although she knew that Lu Qijian had the treasure map, Luo Lisan didn't dare to have any ideas about it. Lu Qijian had the Spirit Potion Valley's token, and he was a top-class warrior. She didn't want to offend him. Whether it was Wan Qianling or Su Xinhua, they were both concerned about the treasure map. If there was a treasure map, it should be able to move the Spirit Potion Valley. Unfortunately, Wan Qianling returned to Falling Flower Palace. When she heard that Tanghua was in closed-door cultivation again, her heart relaxed. The people of Falling Flower Palace persuaded her in all kinds of ways. Wan Qianling's ears were about to grow calluses. Chapter 39-21. In order to carry out her next plan, she patiently listened. When the people of Falling Flower Palace shook their heads and left, she breathed a sigh of relief. Her purpose in coming to Falling Flower Palace was very clear. Didn't Falling Flower Palace have the most precious Buddha lotus seed? It was said that the Buddha lotus seed could bring back people who were on the brink of death. She didn't know if the Buddha lotus seed was useful to Nia Yunsheng, but regardless, she would give it a try. It wasn't that she didn't want to take it openly, but the people of Falling Flower Palace hated men, especially Nia Yunsheng. They probably wanted him to die. If she took the Buddha lotus seed to save Nia Yunsheng openly, Falling Flower Palace would be crazy to agree. In order to save him, she had to say that she had sinned and secretly took the Buddha lotus seed away. Later, she would compensate Falling Flower Palace for their loss. Previously, the martial arts manual was in Tanghua's room, so she didn't know where the Buddha lotus seed was. But she had searched the room last time before finding it. First of all, she had to rule out the possibility that the Buddha lotus seed was in the room, so she could only look for it elsewhere. After elimination, Wan Qianling believed that the Buddha lotus seed should be in Falling Flower Palace's treasury. If she wanted to enter the treasury, she would need the key. There was only one key, and it could only be in the hands of Falling Flower Palace's princess, Tanghua. But could Tanghua carry the key with her at all times? Wan Qianling denied it. The key would most likely be in other places. What does she want to do? Wan Qianling's various small actions had always been seen by the guardians of Falling Flower Palace. Now that the palace master was still in seclusion, it was not good to disturb her. Before, Tanghua had told them that no matter what strange things Wan Qianling did, they only needed to watch quietly and don't bother. Although they were angry, they could only take turns to watch. Wan Qianling must be looking for something, so she would run around in the palace master's room. They couldn't tolerate such behavior. Wan Qianling disappointed them. How could such a person be the palace master of Falling Flower Palace? Left guardian, right guardian, we have inquired about the details. The disciple who went down the mountain to inquire about the news returned to Falling Flower Palace and told them everything. The main point was that Nie Yunsheng was poisoned and might not live for long. When Xiaoming, Chun Mei, and the others heard this, they immediately smiled. This stinky man was finally going to die. If it weren't for this stinky man, would their young palace master's soul have been seduced? Suddenly, they thought of something, and their faces darkened. They looked at each other and saw through each other's thoughts. Wan Qianling suddenly came back and looked for something in the palace master's room. Could it be that she wanted to save Nie Yunsheng? Not good, the Buddhist lotus seed. She's probably here for the Buddhist lotus seed. Chun Mei said, anger appearing on her face. Good for you, Wan Qianling, to actually eat a traitor. Has the palace lord ever mistreated her? Had the Falling Flower Palace done anything wrong to her? She actually wanted to steal the Buddha lotus seed for a stinky man. Xiaoming, let's capture Wan Qianling immediately and lock her in the water dungeon. We'll wait for the palace lord to deal with her after he comes out of seclusion. Even though the palace master had instructed them to just watch quietly, this matter was related to the Buddha lotus seed. They absolutely could not afford to make any mistakes. Xiaoming thought for a moment and suggested, there's no evidence to catch her now. Why don't we wait a little longer and catch her red-handed? At that time, she won't be able to find a reason to defend herself and let the people of Falling Flower Palace see that she's a traitor. In her heart, she had already given up on Wan Qianling. She could use this matter to strip Wan Qianling of her identity. Okay, let's do that. Tanghua had returned to Falling Flower Palace. Wan Qianling had already returned to steal the Buddha lotus seed. It was time to drive this traitor out of Falling Flower Palace. Chapter 39-22. Under the watchful eyes of several core members of Falling Flower Palace, Wan Qianling searched for a long time and finally found the key to the treasury. It turned out that the key was in an exquisite vase in Tanghua's room. She didn't expect to find it. If she hadn't almost knocked over the vase, she wouldn't have found it. Palace Master, she has already gone in the direction of the treasury. I'm afraid she really wants to steal the Buddha lotus seed. Chun Mei cursed angrily. Whether she stole the Buddha lotus seed or not, she stole something else. She has already betrayed Falling Flower Palace. I hope the Palace Master can punish her. She should be locked in the water prison for doing such a thing. Tanghua shook her head gently. In fact, the people of Falling Flower Palace were not that bad. It was just that in Jianghu, if you wanted to live well, you had to rely on your fists. If you didn't toughen up today, others would come to bully you tomorrow. In the plot, Falling Flower Palace was considered half a villain. From the perspective of Nie Yunsheng and Wan Qianling, the behavior of the disciples of Falling Flower Palace seemed to be particularly unreasonable. But when they thought about it, they raised an ingrate and lost 3 treasures in a row. Anyone would be unreasonable. These were the treasures of Falling Flower Palace. In the end, they were stolen by an ingrate and given to someone else. Furthermore, it was the stinky man they hated the most. How could they not go crazy? Could it be that after losing the treasures, they had to smile and say that they didn't give enough things to the other party and wanted him to make up for it? Do you think that just locking her in the water prison can solve the problem once and for all? Let her out when she thinks it through. Chiome hesitated and thought that there was no other way. If the palace master thinks it's not enough, it's better to whip her. According to the rules, ordinary disciples should be whipped for such a mistake. They didn't suggest it because Wan Qianling's identity was not ordinary. Even if they didn't suggest it, the palace master wouldn't forget. At that time, Wan Qianling would definitely suffer. They hoped that Wan Qianling would learn her lesson and not get involved with this stinky man outside. If 1 month didn't work, then 1 year. If 1 year didn't work, then 10 years. In short, they wouldn't let Wan Qianling go down the mountain and be confused by the stinky man and do something to harm Falling Flower Palace. Her heart has already changed. Her heart is no longer here. It's useless to lock her up for so long. What a waste of the Falling Flower Palace's water prison and white rice. Chun Mei and Qiu Huai were a bit stunned. Wasting white rice? Was this something that their palace master would say? Could it be that the palace master was so disappointed in Wan Qianling that he wanted her life? Palace master, you mean to kill her directly? Qiuming couldn't bear it. Why don't we give her another chance to correct herself? If she commits the same mistake again, it won't be too late to execute her. It's a little rash to execute her directly. No matter what, she's still the young palace master. Tang Gui gently shook her head. No wonder the Falling Flower Palace had been cheated so miserably. If the people of Luo Hua Palace had been more ruthless and had directly executed Wan Qianling, there wouldn't have been so much trouble later. At least if the divine sword had not been lost, the Falling Flower Palace would not have been defeated so quickly. I didn't want to take her life. I just thought that a person who can't change her temperament, why force her to stay in Falling Flower Palace? Since she wholeheartedly sided with an outsider and didn't hesitate to steal the treasures of Falling Flower Palace and harm the interests of Falling Flower Palace, such a person, whether she repents in the future or not, is no longer suitable for Falling Flower Palace. She said it so clearly. The people of Falling Flower Palace should understand, right? Chapter 39-23. Palace Master means to expel her from the Falling Flower Palace? Tanghua. Yes, directly expel her from the Falling Flower Palace. Last time, her purpose was to steal the Xian lineage scripture. This time, it was the Buddha lotus seed of the Falling Flower Palace. Next time, will it be the last treasure of the Falling Flower Palace? She has already been involved with the people outside. Staying in the Falling Flower Palace will only be a hidden danger. After thinking about it, the protectors thought that Tanghua was right. If Tanghua hadn't reminded them, they really wouldn't have thought of this. If Wan Qianling admitted her mistake, what would happen to the Falling Flower Palace in the future? The Falling Flower Palace's Chiman Dun Jia couldn't trap Wan Qianling. The more they thought about it, the more panicked they became. Palace Master is thoughtful. Qiu Wu let out a long breath. Palace Master, if you expel Wan Qianling from the Falling Flower Palace, do you need to abolish her martial arts? According to the rules of Jianghu, if a person betrayed the sect, they should be abolished and then expelled. Wan Qianling was raised by the Falling Flower Palace, and they had high hopes for her. Unfortunately, the other party did something bad to the Falling Flower Palace. It was very reasonable to abolish her martial arts and not take her life. What do you think? Tanghua didn't think of this. It seemed that she still didn't accurately grasp the rules of Jianghu. The main reason was that she felt that after Wan Qianling didn't rely on the Falling Flower Palace, the Falling Flower Palace would be safe and the people of Jianghu would no longer be afraid of Wan Qianling. The two of them would start to be unlucky. I think she should be abolished. Chun Mei said, she has betrayed the Falling Flower Palace. Since she doesn't care about the safety of the Falling Flower Palace for a wild man outside, she should leave cleanly. I agree. I also agree. Well, since you all think she should be abolished, then she should be abolished. Tanghua pondered. Wan Qianling had some talent. Even if she abolished her martial arts, it wouldn't be difficult for her to practice again. But she was no longer a member of the Falling Flower Palace. Things wouldn't be as smooth as before. Tang Guo led everyone to the treasury. On the other side, Wan Qianling had secretly taken the key to the treasury's door. She used a trick to hallucinate the disciple guarding outside the treasury and tiptoed in. Tang Guo did not go in. Instead, she waited for Wan Qianling outside with her men. When Wan Qianling came out, she would expose her, cripple her martial arts, and expel her from the Falling Flower Palace. Tang Guo was in a good mood now that she could finally drive the traitor out. Not long after, Wan Qianling walked out of the treasure house with a happy face. She didn't expect that as soon as she took a step out, she felt that something was wrong. When she looked up, she found that Tang Guo had blocked the door with all the protectors of the Falling Flower Palace.
Master?
Wan Qianling was a little dumbfounded by such a big scene. She hurriedly hid the box in her hand behind her back and looked around. She had the intention to slip away. Unfortunately, the protectors of the Falling Flower Palace had already anticipated this and blocked off all escape routes. Ling, what's that in your hand? How did you get into the treasury? Tang Guo looked at the disciples who had fainted on both sides of the treasury. You even knocked out the disciple guarding the treasury. What do you want to do? Master, Wan Qianling didn't know how to explain for a while. No matter what, she must take the Buddha lotus seed away. Master, I have a very important matter. When I'm done with this matter, I'll come back and ask for your forgiveness. Oh, important matter? What is so important that you don't hesitate to steal the key to the treasury and then take something from the Falling Flower Palace? Chapter 39-24. Without my permission, no one is allowed to take anything from the treasury. Don't you know this is the rule of Falling Flower Palace? Facing Tang was questioning, Wan Qianling couldn't speak. She was still thinking of ways to escape. Her stubborn look made everyone in Falling Flower Palace very disappointed in her, and they basically gave up the idea of persuading her. Did you steal the Xian Pulse manual? Tang Guo asked again, and Wan Qianling's face instantly turned pale. Although she expected Tang Guo to find out, she didn't expect it to be so early. At this moment, she could only bite her lips, not knowing how to explain. I know all the news in Jianghu. When Nie Yunxing was crippled, you took the Xian Pulse manual in order to let Nie Yunxing practice martial arts again. People in Jianghu knew that Falling Flower Palace had a good martial arts manual, but they didn't know how magical it was. Otherwise, many people would have come to rob it. For a wild man, you stole the Falling Flower Palace's manual. What do you want to steal now? It is said that Nie Yunxing was poisoned by the Western region. Many doctors can't cure him, and the people of Elixir Valley are not willing to accept you. You stole the Buddha lotus seed, right? Master, I can't watch him die. Just let me go. After I'm done with this, I'll go to Falling Flower Palace and ask for your forgiveness. You can punish me however you want. Wan Qianling was determined to take the Buddha lotus seed away. What if I don't agree? Then Ling, I has to leave even if I have to risk my life. Wan Qianling's face was firm, and no one could stop her today. The people of Falling Flower Palace were a little uncomfortable. Previously, they were a little pitiful for Wan Qianling being crippled and expelled, but now they didn't sympathize at all. She was really an ingrate. The palace master was right. To deal with an ingrate, just drive her out. Why give her a chance to reflect? She would only be a disaster if she stayed, which was not good for Falling Flower Palace at all. Wan Qianling, now there are two paths in front of you. First, this matter stops here and never see Nie Yunxing again. Second, cripple your own martial arts, leave Falling Flower Palace, and no longer a member of Falling Flower Palace. Master, what you've done has already violated the rules of the Falling Flower Palace. If it were an ordinary disciple, she wouldn't have had so many choices. Tang Guo said those words in a cold voice. Wan Qianling felt that she was very unreasonable. Nie Yunxing was about to die, but her master didn't pity her at all, and even wanted to take away her last hope. Choose. Tang Guo's voice was cold, not giving Wan Qianling a chance to speak. Falling Flower Palace or Nie Yunxing? Ruan Qianling stood in place and thought for a long time. She bit her lip and thought. She would not give up on Yunsheng. Since her master was so heartless and wanted to expel her from the Falling Flower Palace because of this matter, there was no reason for her to stay here. I choose to leave Falling Flower Palace. Ruan Qianling's answer was within Tang Guo's expectations. She said indifferently, then destroy your own martial arts. From now on, you are no longer a member of the Falling Flower Palace. You will have nothing to do with the Falling Flower Palace. I will announce this matter to the martial arts world and let everyone in Jianghu know. In any case, Ruan Qianling was the young palace master of Falling Flower Palace. She didn't want her to enjoy any of the fame and superiority of Falling Flower Palace and let others fear her. If people in Jianghu didn't fear the power of Falling Flower Palace, did Ruan Qianling really think that no one would come out to deal with her? Chapter 39-25. Master? No, Palace Master. I can cripple my own martial arts, but I must leave with the Buddha lotus seed. Nia Yunsheng is poisoned and is waiting for the Buddha lotus seed to save his life. Ruan Qianling said this with some expectation, obviously not giving up. Tang Guo almost burst out laughing. This Ruan Qianling was really naive and knew how to use the Falling Flower Palace's resources to save a wild man outside. Is the Buddha lotus seed yours? Qiao Mei couldn't stand it anymore. The Buddha lotus seed is the most precious treasure of the Falling Flower Palace. Ruan Qianling, you've gone too far. You've been blessed by the Falling Flower Palace since you were young, but now you're wasting your efforts by repeatedly stealing the Falling Flower Palace's treasures. If it weren't for the Palace Master's mercy, you would have lost your life. You actually want to use the Buddha lotus seed to save a wild man outside. You don't have the right to take the Buddha lotus seed away. Quickly cripple your own martial arts and leave. The Falling Flower Palace doesn't welcome you. Chun Mei's face was sullen. She suddenly felt that Ruan Qianling was really shameless. Ruan Qianling, as the young palace master of the Falling Flower Palace, not only did you not do anything to protect the Falling Flower Palace, but you also stole the Falling Flower Palace's treasures. Because of you and that stinky man, the Falling Flower Palace has been repeatedly in the eye of the storm, causing people in the martial arts world to curse and ruin the Falling Flower Palace's reputation. Everything here is enough to take your life. The palace master only allowed you to cripple your own martial arts and leave the Falling Flower Palace because of your past relationship. Don't push your luck. The protectors of the Falling Flower Palace were all holding their breaths. After scolding Ruan Qianling, they felt much better. Palace Master, do you really want to be so heartless? Ruan Qianling looked at Tang Guo with a sad face. People who didn't know would really think that she, the Palace Master of the Falling Flower Palace, had done something excessive. Ruan Qianling's moral abduction was also a set of tricks. Do you want to do it yourself, or do you want me to do it myself? Tang Guo's words made Ruan Qianling finally certain that there was no room for negotiation. She pursed her lips and didn't know what to do for a moment. Of course, she didn't want to cripple her own martial arts. She didn't expect that Tang Guo would be so heartless. She didn't expect the other party to not be moved at all. What should she do? Moreover, none of these protectors who were usually kind to her spoke up for her. Seeing that Ruan Qianling still hadn't made up her mind, Tang Guo was a little impatient. Ruan Qianling's personality was really wishy-washy. Ruan Qianling might as well destroy her own martial arts. She couldn't stand the way he wanted to get all the benefits. When the air fell silent, Tang Guo instantly moved to Ruan Qianling's side. Her palm landed on the top of Ruan Qianling's head. Ruan Qianling had a look of disbelief on her face as she began to cripple her martial arts. Not long after, all of Ruan Qianling's martial arts were abolished by Tang Guo. Ruan Qianling, who had been abolished, was very weak and limp on the ground. The box in her hand had been taken by Tang Guo. After Tang Guo ordered people to send the box into the treasury, she glanced at the pale-faced Ruan Qianling condescendingly. All disciples, listen up. From today onwards, Ruan Qianling is no longer a member of the Falling Flower Palace. arrange for people to send her down the mountain. At the same time, announce this matter to the martial arts world. Of course, the matter of the Falling Flower Palace expelling a disciple had to be made clear so that everyone would know about it. Wan Qianling was dumbfounded. The pain of having her martial arts abolished made her temporarily unable to speak. When she was held by two disciples, her eyes were on Tanggua. Unfortunately, Tanggua didn't even look at her, which made her feel very aggrieved. Well, from now on, I'm no longer a member of the Falling Flower Palace. Chapter 39-26. Wan Qianling shouted and broke free from the disciples who were holding her. I'll go by myself.
You don't have to worry about me.
Seeing that Wan Qianling was about to fall, the disciples wanted to support her. Tanggua said, Don't worry about her. Let her go by herself. Oh, who did she think she was? Who would care about a traitor? She would be happy to drive the traitor out. Tanggua's words had absolute authority among the disciples of Falling Flower Palace. The disciples really did not help Wan Qianling and let her fall to the ground awkwardly. Wan Qianling ate the dust on the ground and felt very wronged. Tanggua looked at Wan Qianling pitifully leaving and sneered in her heart. She had been in Falling Flower Palace for too long and was used to the care of Falling Flower Palace. Now that Wan Qianling was no longer a member of Falling Flower Palace, how many people in Jianghu would care about her life and death? Did she really think that without Falling Flower Palace to rely on, Jianghu would be as comfortable as before?
Naive.
Wan Qianling is no longer a disciple of Falling Flower Palace. If you encounter a conflict in the past, you don't have to be merciful. Of course, if you encounter other things, don't meddle in other people's business. She was afraid that the people of Falling Flower Palace would care about their old friendship and couldn't help helping Wan Qianling when they saw her suffer. Yes, Palace Master. Remember, she is a traitor. Tanggua felt that the warning was not enough and repeatedly emphasized to the disciples of Falling Flower Palace. If she first stole the Xian Pulse book and then wanted to steal the Buddha lotus seed, if we didn't find out, she may have designs on the Divine Hall in the future. After this series of words, the disciples of Falling Flower Palace were even more indignant and felt that the punishment for Wan Qianling was too small. If she were an ordinary disciple, she would have been executed. She was a traitor. Fortunately, the palace master was wise. Otherwise, the treasures of Falling Flower Palace would have been stolen by this traitor. Tanggua was finally satisfied with the expressions of the disciples of Falling Flower Palace. She did not deliberately correct the disciples of Falling Flower Palace that they hated men. In this world, there were indeed more scumbags. There were not many good men in Jianghu. They were all scumbags. In any case, this was an ancient world. Once a woman got married, most of the women of Jianghu had to take care of her husband. She had so many beautiful ladies in the Falling Flower Palace, so why should she give up her carefree days for a scumbag? She should just let the ladies in the Falling Flower Palace be beautiful by themselves. She didn't emphasize how bad the men in this world were, nor would she explain to them that there were good men in this world. She just needed to let them live naturally. Wan Qianling was very weak now. It took a lot of effort to reach the foot of the mountain. What she didn't know was that after she went down the mountain, Tanggua went to change the Chimenduanjia at the foot of the mountain. In other words, Wan Qianling could no longer enter the Falling Flower Palace unless she allowed it. As for the location of the secret passage at the back of the mountain, she did not do anything. It was not important whether Wan Qianling would return to that place in the future. To meet. She just had to wait for the Buddha lotus seed to save Nya Yunqing's life. Wan Qianling took out something from her bosom. Looking at the small bundle wrapped in brocade, she had no intention of opening it. When she received the box containing the Buddha lotus seed, she was afraid that something unexpected would happen and put the thing inside into her bosom. Chapter 39-27. Now, she still had no intention of opening it. She was afraid that it would lose its efficacy. The reason why she didn't doubt it was because of the unique lotus fragrance coming from the brocade. She had never smelled such a smell before. What else could it be other than Buddha's lotus seed? Wan Qianling was afraid that there would be an accident and hurriedly put the brocade close to her body. Today's matter still made her very sullen. Her martial arts were abolished, and she was expelled from the Falling Flower Palace. It was one disaster after another for her. She only hoped that she could save Nie Yunsheng after giving up so much. As long as Nie Yunsheng was alive, her sacrifices were worth it. As for the Falling Flower Palace, it was fine if she couldn't go back. There were so many rules in the Falling Flower Palace. It was good that she had regained her freedom. Otherwise, if she and Nie Yunsheng wanted to be together in the future, the Falling Flower Palace would stop them at all costs. Wan Qianling, who had figured it out, didn't feel so bad anymore. At this time, the Wulin side also quickly learned that the young master of the Falling Flower Palace, Wan Qianling, was expelled from the Falling Flower Palace. This news indeed attracted the attention of many people, who all inquired about what was going on. Tang Wu didn't hide it and let people announce the whole thing. Not long after, the people of Jianghu knew the details. It turned out that Wan Qianling intended to steal the treasures of the Falling Flower Palace in order to save Nie Yunsheng, but she was discovered. In this way, wasn't it tantamount to betraying the sect? Then she brought it on herself? Who said no? It seems that the Falling Flower Palace still cares about friendship. If this matter was in other sects, it wouldn't be a small matter. A light punishment would be abolition of martial arts and expulsion from the sect. A heavy punishment would be death. In fact, these Jianghu people all felt that Wan Qianling was very stupid. Even if the Falling Flower Palace was hated by everyone in Jianghu, Wan Qianling could go smoothly in Jianghu because she had such a big backer. A few years ago, she did all kinds of things in Jianghu and didn't attract the top masters of other sects to kill her because of her identity as the young master of the Falling Flower Palace. Now that Wan Qianling had been expelled from the Luo Hua Palace, her background was gone, and her martial arts were gone. In the past, there were many people who had suffered losses at Wan Qianling's hands. However, all of them just let it be. This was the demoness of the Fallen Flower Palace. Her status was important. If they continued to provoke her, they would not have a good ending. Now that Wan Qianling had lost her martial arts and Nie Yunsheng had been kicked out of Drifting Cloud Villa, if Wan Qianling caused any more trouble, they really didn't want to be polite anymore. However, he had to test the Falling Flower Palace's attitude towards the matter that he had provoked before this. Wan Qianling was nervous all the way to the agreed place. When she saw that Nie Yunsheng was still alive, she felt a little relieved. Nie Yunsheng's condition wasn't very good. The poison was still spreading. Even though Luo Lisan had spent a lot of money to hire many good doctors, none of them were able to help. Now, the poison had spread to half of his arm. According to the degree of spread, they could calculate how long Nie Yunsheng could live. Nie Yunsheng saw that Wan Qianling was in a sorry state. Her face was pale, and her steps were unsteady. He thought that she was injured and asked with concern, "Ling, did you encounter a lot of trouble on this trip?" He could vaguely guess what Wan Qianling wanted to do in the Falling Flower Palace. The Falling Flower Palace didn't have any magical medical skills. The only thing that could save him was most likely the legendary Buddhist lotus seed. The treasure of the Falling Flower Palace had always been confusing. Chapter 39:28. He had already practiced one of the treasures, the Xian Pulse Book, so he believed in the existence of the Buddha lotus seed even more. Thinking about how his situation was getting worse, even if he noticed that Wan Qianling's situation wasn't good, he couldn't help but look forward to it. I had a falling out with the Falling Flower Palace. Wan Qianling didn't plan to hide it. She had been wronged in the Falling Flower Palace and had been holding it in. Now that she saw Nie Yunsheng, she couldn't hold it in and wanted to pour it all out. Her eyes instantly turned red, and she was about to cry. Nie Yunsheng saw this, and his heart ached. He couldn't help but hug her shoulder to comfort her. "Ling, is it because of me?" For me, You were made difficult by the people of the Falling Flower Palace and they even injured you? My original intention was to go back and get the Buddha lotus seed. Regardless of whether the Buddha lotus seed has the effect of detoxification, it is said that it can bring the dead back to life. Unfortunately, it was discovered in the end. Palace Master wanted me to choose a path. Cripple my cultivation and leave or stay in the Falling Flower Palace forever and never care about you. I chose to cripple my cultivation and leave. Now, the entire martial arts world probably knows that I was expelled from the Falling Flower Palace. Nia Yunqing's heart ached when he heard this. He guessed that she didn't get the Buddha lotus seed. Wan Qianling's sacrifice was too great. Even if she was a little disappointed, he couldn't blame her. There were so many experts in the Falling Flower Palace. Ling was willing to do this for him. It was already very risky. Ling, let nature take its course. If you didn't get it, then forget it. Wan Qianling shook her head, a mysterious smile on her pale face. She took something out from her bosom. Look, what is this? Under Nia Yunqing's puzzled gaze, she said, When I found the Buddha lotus seed, I was afraid that there would be an accident if I put it in a box. So I swapped the thing inside and hid it close to my body. Palace Master only snatched the box back. I brought the real Buddha lotus seed back. She looked as if she had done a very great thing. Facing Nia Yunqing's shock, Wan Qianling slowly opened the brocade. Ling, it's been hard on you. You've done too much for me. I just didn't want to watch you die.
Wan Qianling said.
Ling, let me protect you from now on. Even if you are not in the Falling Flower Palace and do not have any martial arts, there is no need to worry about anyone harming you. Wan Qianling heard what she liked and felt that all the sacrifices were worth it. The people of the Falling Flower Palace always said that men were heartless, but that was because they only saw heartless men. They would always have a prejudiced mentality. It was impossible for them to meet a good man like Nia Yunqing. When the brocade was spread out, Nia Yunqing and Wan Qianling looked at the slightly withered and small seed inside. It indeed looked like a lotus seed. It was completely different from what they had imagined. They had thought that they would see something extraordinary. Even if it was not sparkling, it should at least be a beautiful lotus seed, right? Is this the Buddha lotus seed? Nia Yunqing asked, full of doubt. Wan Qianling shook her head. She did not know either. She had never seen what the Buddha lotus seed looked like. In the rumors of the pugilistic world, there were all kinds of Buddha lotus seeds. Why don't you try it first? Wan Qianling was not so sure now. She even gently sniffed it. There was indeed a lotus fragrance. She did not know that this was the fragrance on the brocade. She thought that it was the fragrance of this ordinary lotus seed. No matter what, she had gotten it. It was not a bad idea to let Nia Yunqing try it. Nia Yunqing hesitated for a moment before nodding and saying, Then I'll try. Chapter 39-29. Nia Yunqing picked up the small lotus seed that didn't look like the legendary Buddha's lotus seed and put it in his mouth with some hesitation. Wan Qianling looked at him very nervously. Nia Yunqing frowned and finally swallowed the lotus seed. Wan Qianling saw that he was having difficulty swallowing and hurriedly poured a glass of water for him. After drinking the glass of water, Wan Qianling asked hopefully, How is it? She grabbed Nia Yunqing's arm and stared unblinkingly at the place where the poison had spread. She hoped that the Buddha's lotus seed would work and expel the poison from Nia Yunqing's body as soon as possible. I don't feel anything special. It just doesn't taste very good. Nia Yunqing frowned and stretched his eyes. What he didn't say was that there was a faint rotten smell. Therefore, he swallowed it. Although the lotus fragrance outside was very special, it couldn't hide the rotten smell. After a cup of tea's time, Nia Yunqing didn't change at all. Is there any change in your body? Wan Qianling asked. Nia Yunqing shook his head. He didn't feel any change at all. Wan Qianling's face turned ugly. Even if the Buddha's lotus seed couldn't detoxify the poison, it was impossible for there to be no change at all. The legendary Buddha's lotus seed could not only save lives, but also improve one's skills. Is there any change in your internal energy? It is said that taking the Buddha's lotus seed can improve one's skills. Wan Qianling asked expectantly. Nie Yunqing's face darkened, and he shook his head. There is no change. Could it be that this Buddha's lotus seed is fake? Wan Qianling's face turned pale. Was it replaced by someone? No. The people of Falling Flower Palace should know that I planned to steal the Buddha's lotus seed. When I opened the treasury, there was a thick layer of dust on the lock. I remember clearly that no one has entered the treasury for a long time. If it was really replaced, why would the palace lord be so impatient to snatch the box back? Perhaps the palace lord of Falling Flower Palace didn't know that the Buddha's lotus seed was stolen. The lotus seed just now should be an ordinary lotus seed that was replaced by someone else. Nie Yunsheng analyzed. You were one step too late. The two analyzed and felt that this was the truth of the matter and fell into silence. Let's go to the western regions. Wan Qianling suddenly said, this poison started in the western regions. If we go there, we might be able to find a way to detoxify it. Ling, I'm afraid that with the speed at which this poison is spreading, I won't be able to save myself before it reaches the western regions. Nie Yunqing said, somewhat resigned to his fate. How about we just forget about it? How can we let it go? Let's go to the Elixir Valley again. We can't give up until the very end. Wan Qianling was unwilling to give up. Nie Yunqing couldn't persuade Wan Qianling, but he didn't want to die. He agreed with Wan Qianling and decided to go to the Spirit Potion Valley to try his luck. A few days later, Luo Lisin came to the place where they were temporarily staying. She gave 2,000-year-old ginsengs to Nie Yunqing. I heard that you guys are going to the Spirit Potion Valley. Why don't you take these 2 ginsengs? I spent a lot of money to get them. I don't know if the Spirit Potion Valley will be moved. Luo Lisin also knew that Wan Qianling had been expelled from the Falling Flower Palace. She didn't think that there was anything wrong with the Falling Flower Palace's approach. Since there was a traitor in their own family, wasn't it normal to cripple their martial arts and expel them? Since the day she met Wan Qianling, she didn't like her. She took out the ginsengs because of Nie Yunqing. He was a top martial arts expert who was about the same age as her. He was much easier to get along with than Lu Qijian. At least, Nie Yunqing was more polite to her and would show her a good attitude. Chapter 30:930. Unlike Lu Qijian, who only had eyes for the sword. Every day, he only knew how to compete with the sword. Sometimes he would say something that made her heart ache. Since she had given up on Lu Qijian, she only felt that her heart was smooth and the air was fresh. She felt comfortable everywhere. This kind of happy life where she wasn't angered was really comfortable. Fuck Lu Qijian. Fuck his sword. She was the #1 beauty in the martial arts world. Why would she have to make life difficult for a rotten wood? Wasn't it just looking for trouble? Luo Lisin's generosity touched Nie Yunqing. Wan Qianling also reluctantly thanked her. She was still as arrogant as before. Now that you two are in trouble, I'll go with you. Take the Luo family's carriage. Those who don't know their place won't dare to provoke us. If it were in the past, Wan Qianling wouldn't have cared. Nie Yunqing was poisoned. Every time he used his internal energy, the poison would spread faster. Her martial arts had just been destroyed. If she wanted to return to her peak state, it would take a long time. If the two of them went to the Spirit Potion Valley together, it would be dangerous on the way. With the Luo family's carriage escorting them, no one came to trouble them. Soon, they arrived outside the Spirit Potion Valley. They took out 2 old ginsengs to meet the people of the Spirit Potion Valley. They were full of expectations. However, when the people who came to meet them heard that it was just 2 old ginsengs, they rejected them. Not even 1,000-year-old ginsengs. Luo Lisin sighed. It seems that it's not easy to move the Spirit Potion Valley. It must be the most precious treasure in the world to attract their attention. If we can find a treasure map, perhaps we can succeed. Luo Lisin still didn't remind them about the treasure map. Lu Qijian might have it. Her intuition told her that she'd better not tell them about it. Not to mention that Lu Qijian wasn't someone to be trifled with. The Tang woman next to him was the same. Luo Lisin didn't plan to tell them the truth about Di Weiping, the one who had harmed Nie Yunqing. She'd better keep it to herself. Her Luo family was a big family with many people. Even if she liked to play around in the pugilistic world, it would be fine if she was involved too deeply. It would be detrimental to the Luo family. Her father had once told her that even if she knew something, as long as it didn't implicate her, it was best to pretend that she didn't know, lest she got into trouble. Other than the news that might be detrimental to the Luo family, she would not refuse anything that could help Nia Yunsheng financially and physically. Treasure map. Wan Qianling's expression turned ugly. There is no trace of the treasure map. Where can we find it? I've already arranged for people to inquire about it, but there's no news. Luo Lisan said. Nia Yunsheng thanked her. Miss Luo, thank you for your efforts. Also, thank you for this journey. If it weren't for you, with Ling, and my current situation, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to come here safely. Wan Qianling thought of what had happened along the way and fell silent. Such a situation. This was something she had never encountered before. Along the way, they stopped at an inn to rest. They met some familiar faces in Jianghu who wanted to snatch the best room from her. If it was in the past, no one would dare to provoke her as long as she was dressed like this. Even if others didn't know her, she could teach them a lesson and they would obediently leave. This time it was different. If it weren't for Luo Lisan, she would have been at a disadvantage. She wanted to vent the nameless anger in her heart, but she had no way to do so. Chapter 39-31. She even realized the gap between her and Luo Lisan's status. In the past, they could be on equal footing, and she could even vaguely suppress her. After all, she was not from a prestigious family, so she didn't have to pay attention to morality. She was more free and easy and did whatever she wanted. Luo Lisan was different. In her eyes, Luo Lisan was very fake. After this comparison, Wan Qianling couldn't bear to see Nia Yunsheng being polite to Luo Lisan. Fool, I'm hungry. Wan Qianling grabbed Nia Yunsheng and said, let's get something to eat first. Nia Yunsheng didn't find anything wrong with Wan Qianling. He thought she was really hungry, so he agreed. Just when they were at their wits' end, Su Xinyu came and brought them a piece of news. When Su Xinyu appeared, her face was not very good. Nia Yunsheng quickly asked if something had happened to the villa. Su Xinyu shook her head, but her pale face was not very convincing. After being repeatedly questioned by several people, she finally opened her mouth. Senior Marshal Brother, everything in the villa is fine, but... Su Xinyu thought of Nia Yunsheng's safety and gritted her teeth. I accidentally discovered something that may be a big blow to Senior Marshal Brother. She swore that she really didn't mean to eavesdrop. At that time, she was so scared that her legs were weak and her body was stiff. If she made a sound, she felt that her end would definitely not be good. What's the matter? Nia Yunsheng couldn't sit still. Su Xinyu paused for a moment, as if a cat was scratching her heart. Senior Brother, Master has a treasure map in his hand. Su Xinyue's words were like a sudden surge of turbulent waves on the calm sea, and several people were stunned. Nia, he has a treasure map in his hand? That treasure map belongs to the Seven Stars sect, Su Xinyu said in one breath. I accidentally overheard the conversation between Master and Master's wife. At that time, Master and Master's wife were quarreling. They said that you are really Master's blood, and not de-wapings. In addition, Masteress also asked Master if it was Master who dared to steal the dark-clothed men's tribute. She asked Master if he thought that you were de-waping's child, so he used you and risked your life to steal the dark-clothed men's tribute. Master was scolded by his mother. Master admitted it. Master's wife was about to leave in disappointment and was put under house arrest by Master. Su Xinyu finished in one breath. I was almost discovered. Fortunately, there was a mysterious person in white who helped me. She was wearing a veil, so I didn't know who she was. I couldn't see her face clearly, but judging from her figure, dress, and voice, she was a woman. If it weren't for her, I might not have ended up well. Perhaps Master was afraid that the news would be leaked, so he killed the maid by Mistress's side. What did you say? Nia Yunsheng didn't believe it. How could it be? Also, Mistress also asked Master if it was Master who pretended to be you and stole things from the Seven-Star Sword Sect. Master also admitted it, saying that he wanted to squeeze out your last value and let Di Weiping's son die a worthy death. Anyway, your existence is his shame, so dying like this is somewhat useful. Mistress scolded him as a madman. No matter what Mistress said, Master didn't believe it. He thought that you are Di Weiping's blood, and said that you can only be Di Weiping's blood. Especially the last sentence, it really made Su Xinyue's heart turn cold. From the analysis of the situation at that time, senior martial brother should be Master's blood. Nie Yunsheng only felt blood rushing to his heart at this time, and he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 39-32. Wan Qianling and Su Xinyue nervously supported Nie Yunsheng. They were very concerned about his situation. Luo Lisan frowned. Things seemed to be more complicated than she imagined. No, it should be said that things were serious. So, was Nie Yunsheng Niehe's son? According to Su Xinyue's retelling of the situation, if the other party and Madame Nie didn't lie, Nie Yunsheng should be Niehe's biological son. In summary, Niehe had always misunderstood this matter. He thought that Nie Yunsheng wasn't his son, so he schemed later. Niehe's last sentence, Nie Yunsheng could only be Di Weiping's bloodline, which meant that Nie Yunsheng should be his son. The first person who robbed the tribute, killed the disciples of Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa, and stole the treasure map was Niehe. However, he stole a fake one and was tricked by the Seven Stars sect. Later, during the martial arts convention, he pretended to be Nie Yunsheng and really stole the treasure map. During the second martial arts convention, Di Weiping suddenly appeared and stopped Niehe from being the leader of Wulin. He almost killed him. Fortunately, Nie Yunsheng appeared and helped him. Niehe seemed to be concerned, but in fact, he didn't care about Nie Yunsheng at all. Luo Lisan thought it through. She always felt that Niehe was a little strange to Nie Yunsheng. Every time he did, it was indeed the concern of a father for his son. However, it was basically just words of concern. There was never any actual action. What did Niehe mean when he said that Nie Yunsheng could only be Di Weiping's son?
Got it.
Luo Lisan remembered that Nie Yunsheng was poisoned by Di Weiping. She didn't know much about the grudge between Niehe and Di Weiping, but she had heard some rumors about Drifting Cloud Villa from her father. It was said that Di Weiping had a perverse temperament and had done a lot of wrong things. Even the former manor head was disgusted with him. Whether he was alive or dead was a mystery. Because he never appeared again, many people thought that he was dead. According to what Niehe said, Nie Yunsheng could only be Di Weiping's son. Did that mean that he wanted Di Weiping to suffer so much that he wished he was dead? Luo Lisan felt that this was very likely to be the case. She couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. Who would have thought that the Flowing Cloud Villa's villa master, Niehe, who is called a hero on the surface, was actually a scheming villain? Sure enough, father was right. In this Jianghu, one must never judge a person based on their appearance. Some people looked good on the outside, but they might be as black as charcoal on the inside. Luo Lisan, who had guessed most of the situation, didn't intend to say her guess out loud. If she got involved in this conspiracy, she didn't know what would happen. Father also said that some old foxes in the Jianghu liked to leave a trick up their sleeves. For the Luo family and her life, she couldn't get involved in this matter. She couldn't help but look at Wan Qianling. Look, this was a lesson learned. Fortunately, she had a shrewd father. Although he didn't teach her any tricks, he taught her one thing. Don't get involved in other people's affairs. Young Master Nie, I may have to go. Luo Lisan silently organized her words. I will help you inquire about the location of the other treasure maps. Once there is news, I will send someone to inform you. Nie Yunsheng also came back to his senses. Luo Lisan's sudden departure made him feel a little helpless. Miss Luo, is there something urgent? Luo Lisan nodded. Yes, I received news that my father wants me to go back immediately. She looked a little helpless. Chapter 39-33. If I don't go back, he probably won't recognize me as his daughter. Before Nye Yunsheng could speak, Wan Qianling interrupted. It's just a walk in the martial arts world. What can happen? He's always threatening to not recognize you. I'm afraid he's a fake father. You're the #1 beauty in the martial arts world, and your martial arts aren't bad. Can't you make your own decisions? Luo Lisin frowned slightly. Her father asking her to go back was just an excuse. She didn't expect Wan Qianling to have such a reaction, which made her a little stunned. Let's not talk about whether her father said such a thing. Even if he did, it wasn't a serious matter. He just wanted her to go back. In her opinion, Wan Qianling's reaction was a little too extreme. If she really didn't have a good relationship with her father, after listening to Wan Qianling's words, she might really be instigated and not want to go back. From then on, her relationship with her family would get worse. I've been out for a long time this time. It's normal for my father to be worried. Luo Lisin said. In addition, I also want to go back and spend more time with him so that he won't worry. Wan Qianling pursed her lips and didn't speak. In her opinion, this Luo Lisin couldn't make her own decisions. Maybe when she went back this time, her father would arrange a marriage for Luo Lisin and marry her off. At that time, she would see if the other party would be anxious. In Wan Qianling's heart, Master Luo's behavior was similar to that of the Falling Flower Palace. They were both very abominable and always used their own reasons to stop them from doing things. The difference was that she resisted. Now that she was free, she would never be manipulated by them. However, Luo Lisin didn't dare to resist and could only obediently go back and accept the arrangement of fate. So, what if she was the #1 beauty in the martial arts world and the eldest daughter of the Luo family? She still couldn't control her own life. Nye Yunsheng really wanted Luo Lisin to stay, but unfortunately, he didn't have any position to speak. Now that his poison had not been cured, Ling Er's martial arts had been destroyed, and she had encountered the mystery of her birth. He couldn't cope with all these things. With Luo Lisin around, no matter where they went, at least some of the people in the martial arts world wouldn't dare to provoke them. Once Luo Lisin left, those people wouldn't be easy to deal with. If she wanted to go back to see her father, he couldn't stop her, right? There was no reason at all. Luo Lisin bid farewell to the few of them and turned around to board the carriage. According to her usual temperament, she might have reminded them to look for her if they needed anything. Right now, this Nye Yunsheng was a hot potato. Anyone who touched him would definitely get hurt. Forget it. Forget it. He was not the only good-looking person among the outstanding talents of the martial arts world. It was better for her to go back and immerse herself in it for a while. She would come out to take a look after the matters in the Jianghu were settled. Young miss, why are you in such a hurry? When did master send a letter? Luo Lisin shushed her and said in a low voice, the underworld has been a bit chaotic recently, so I wanted to go home to avoid it. My father said that if we encounter a crisis that we can't solve as a businessman, the best thing to do is to save money. The maidservant sitting next to Luo Lisin widened her eyes. How could this match? What a good way to break even. Then young Master Nye and young Miss won't follow us? There doesn't seem to be any progress on the poison in the western regions. I've been busy all this time and have helped him a lot. I've done my best and have fallen in love with him. I guess the heavens think that we're not suitable for each other, so let's forget about it. Your young miss is just a mere mortal. How can I go against the heavens and change my fate? It's a pity, but it's also fate. Chapter 39-34. Luo Lisin said seriously, go back and rest first. There are many outstanding martial artists every year. If this one doesn't work, change to another one. The maid was speechless. No wonder the master said that he couldn't arrange a marriage for her. He was probably afraid of making enemies.
How many people had she changed?
She was the #1 beauty in the martial arts world. Why did all of them fail halfway? In the future, when Nye Yunsheng sends me a message, pretend that you don't see it. Luo Lisin ordered. Miss, is this okay? What's wrong with it? I'm not a goddess. If he comes looking for trouble, it will implicate the Luo family. The main thing is that I've been working hard for so many days. Not only does he care about Wan Qianling, but he also pretends to deal with me. God can't stand it anymore and decides that we are not fated to be together. Miss, you didn't say that before. You said that young Master Nye is good in every way. The maid couldn't help but refute. How could she change so quickly? It's hard to change a person's mind. I've already changed my mind, okay? Luo Lisan said, and closed her eyes. She didn't want the stupid maid to speak. There were many outstanding martial artists every year. If this one didn't work, there would be another one. It wouldn't affect anything. It was like wanting to eat buns today, pancakes tomorrow, and porridge the day after. Miss Tang, is there a problem with them? Tang Guo went down the mountain this time, because she remembered something in the plot. Originally, Niehe's conspiracy wouldn't be exposed so early, but she didn't want to drag it out. After going down the mountain, she only did one thing, which was to save Su Xinhua, who was killed by Niehe in the plot. In the plot, Niehe disguised himself as Nie Yunsheng and killed Su Xinhua. However, in the plot, Wan Qianling helped and gave Nie Yunsheng 2 treasures, so he could still do it. In addition, Di Weiping was schemed against by Niehe. He thought that Nie Yunsheng was his blood and secretly helped him. Now that Tangwa came down from the mountain, the first thing she did was to save Su Xinhua. She watched Su Xinhua come to Nie Yunsheng with her own eyes and told him the truth, which added fuel to the fire. Unexpectedly, Lu Qijian found her again. His nose was as sharp as a dog's. He discovered her whereabouts within 2 days of going down the mountain. Lu Qijian watched the whole process of Tangwa saving Su Xinhua. One was doing his own thing, while the other remained silent. Needless to say, they had quite a tacit understanding. No problem. I was just bored and wanted to watch a show. Hearing this, Lu Qijian's eyes lit up. So Miss Tang is bored. Why don't we have a sword fight? It won't be boring then. Tangwa looked up and glanced at Lu Qijian. Are you going to spend your whole life with a sword? Lu Qijian subconsciously wanted to say, of course. Just as the words were about to come out of his mouth, he quickly shut his mouth. He was not good with words, but he also felt that there was something wrong with Tangwa's words. It should be that the sword will be with me for the rest of my life. Lu Qijian changed the way he said it. He felt that it was not that big of a burden to say it this way. The system, who was listening by the side, was laughing crazily. How could this work? How did you find the drifting cloud villa? I smelled Miss Tang's scent. Lu Qijian answered seriously. He was really born with a keen sense of smell. Even his parents said that it would be a waste if he did not learn medicine. However, he really had no interest in learning medicine. He only liked to practice swordsmanship. However, when he was young, he also knew some medical skills which were all used to treat his own wounds. When he was young, in order to get time to practice swordsmanship, he was often caught and smelled all kinds of herbs. Chapter 39-35. In Jianghu, everyone had a different aura. The more powerful a person was, the more obvious their aura would be in the air. As long as he wanted to, as long as this person walked in Jianghu, he could track their aura and find their location, unless they disappeared. He liked to wander in Jianghu when he had nothing to do. Didn't something happen in Falling Flower Palace some time ago? He just wanted to wander around Falling Flower Palace and see if he could meet the masters there. Tangwa's aura appeared at the foot of the mountain on every floor of Falling Flower Palace. This aura was divided into 2 directions. One was towards Falling Flower Palace, and the other was towards another direction. According to the intensity of the aura, he thought Tangwa should have gone in the other direction. He didn't expect Tangwa to go to Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa. He felt that Tangwa wanted to do something, so he hid in the dark. Tangwa found him. They looked at each other and didn't say anything. Later, he heard Niehe and Madame Nye quarreling. There was also a little girl eavesdropping. He recognized the girl. She was Su Xinhua, a disciple of the mountain villa. After they finished quarreling, Niehe became angry out of humiliation. He knocked Madame Nye out and then killed her personal maid. Su Xinhua, who was hiding in the dark, was so scared that her legs turned to jelly and her breathing became unstable. At this time, He saw Miss Tang land lightly beside Su Xinhua and cover her mouth. After He left, she took her away from the mountain villa. He didn't show up until Su Xinhua left. He wasn't curious enough to ask why. What happened in Drifting Cloud Mountain Villa had nothing to do with him. There were many grievances in Jianghu. If it didn't have anything to do with him, he couldn't care less. After hearing Lu Qijian's words, Tang was lost in thought. It turned out that Lu Qijian had a dog's nose. No wonder he found her so accurately. So, he should know that she came down from Falling Flower Palace. Aren't you curious why I came down from Falling Flower Palace? Lu Qijian shook his head. What does this have to do with a sword competition? When this show is over, I will have a sword competition with you. Lu Qijian was pleasantly surprised by Tang Guo's sudden words. His expression was still the same, but his eyes were burning. He could feel that his sword was throbbing. He could understand that kind of impatience. Really? Really? Tang Guo revealed a meaningful look. So that you won't be able to find me once I go down the mountain. After Luo Lisan left, Wan Qianling and Nye Yunxing fell into a passive situation. As for Su Xinhua, she didn't dare to go to the Floating Cloud Mountain Villa at all. She only felt that he was too terrifying. She couldn't forget the scene of he killing Madame Nye's personal maid with her own eyes. If it wasn't for the mysterious woman, she might have died in he's hands. In her heart, her master was clearly a hero. How could he become like that? Senior Marshal Brother, what should we do now? Su Xinhua was out of her wits and completely lost the ability to think. Regardless of whether he was Nye Yunxing's father or not, at least Madame Nye was his mother. He couldn't sit idly by and ignore this matter. Wan Qianling suddenly said, How about we make a bet? Didn't you say that he has a treasure map? If our Floating Cloud Mountain Villa can get the treasure map, the fool can be saved. Su Xinhua quickly shook her head. Master's martial arts are so strong. Now that Senior Marshal Brother is poisoned and can't use internal energy, it's impossible to snatch the treasure map from him. Chapter 39-36. Who said we're going to fight head-on? We can outsmart him. As long as one person is willing to help us, we'll be halfway to success. Wan Qianling's eyes sparkled, as if they contained endless wisdom. The most important thing now is to get the treasure map and send Fool to the Spirit Potion Valley to be detoxified. With Fool's martial arts skills, he'll have no problem dealing with Nye. It'll depend on whether Madame Nye will cooperate or not. Nye didn't kill Madame Nye directly, which meant he was still afraid or didn't want to kill Madame Nye. Someone who had been by his side for many years must know something. Wan Qianling was very confident that she could convince Madame Nye. Su Xinhua didn't want to go back. She felt that her legs would tremble when she saw Nye. I really don't dare to go back. When I see Master, I'll remember the previous scene. I'll definitely be exposed. Wan Qianling was a bit annoyed with the timid Su Xinhua. She couldn't do anything and only caused a lot of trouble. Where did her previous arrogance go? She didn't force her. How about this? If you don't show up at Flowing Cloud Mountain Villa, I'll help you disguise yourself and you'll meet us outside. Okay, that's not a problem. Su Xinhua really wanted to help Nye Yunxing. After all, she was engaged to him and grew up with him. Senior Brother didn't like her and only had eyes for Wan Qianling. She felt very uncomfortable. Sometimes, Wan Qianling really convinced her. If it were her, she really wouldn't have thought of such a bold plan. This was the only way to save Zhixiong. After the plan was decided, the three set off. On the other side, Di Weiping found a place that sold information. He handed the letter to the other party and asked the other party to leak the contents of the letter. Why did he do that? He just wanted to confuse Nye. If Nye wanted to be cuckolded so much, then he'd let him be. A few months ago, he went to find his little junior sister. Little junior sister scolded him the moment she saw him and even asked him to give Nye Yunxing the antidote. He didn't see the slightest bit of concern in her eyes. She kept emphasizing that the grudges of the previous generation should not be placed on the next generation. He had never intended to cause trouble for Nie Yunsheng. In the beginning, he had targeted Nie He. Nie Yunsheng had volunteered to help Nie He. Why should he be merciful to those who stood in his way of revenge? He didn't have any antidote. The poison from the western regions was something he had obtained by chance. As far as he was concerned, as long as the Spirit Potion Valley didn't help Nie Yunsheng was doomed. His other feelings for his junior sister were long gone. Over the past 10 years, he had repeatedly recalled that he and little junior sister did indeed have true feelings for each other. But those feelings had already gone with the wind. When he became a cripple, their feelings were obliterated. He wasn't a fool. Back then, after he got into trouble, little junior sister had turned around and chosen Nie He. His heart was as clear as a mirror. Wasn't it just because she saw that he was a bad guy and became a cripple? Perhaps on the day he left, little junior sister still had him in her heart. Otherwise, she wouldn't have begged Nie He to spare his life. Nie He spared his life for 2 reasons. First, he didn't want little junior sister to be enraged. Second, he wanted to humiliate him. Third, he didn't want his master to think that he was a cruel man. His master had given him to Nie He so that he could spare his life. If his master took action, he wouldn't have a chance to survive. Because of their past relationship, after he recovered his martial arts, he didn't trouble Nie Yunsheng. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.